A 3-on-2 for Newfoundland, and they score! Todd Skirving's got his first of the season, and the Growlers take a 2-1 lead, and we haven't even played 5 minutes yet.
Do people in Canada have cable, like other people?
We keep this up in the playoffs. I don't care.
And at Chili's. Is it a Chili's? At Kyle's?
Achilles.
Finally.
You don't know that?
Fuck you! Get this guy the fuck out of here!
Alright, well, coming in at number 5, I got Anthony Stolars.
Now! Jets are winning the cup!
Thank you for watching and listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 90 of the NordCast. Yeah, we're on the countdown, essentially, to 100 episodes. It is Thursday, February 6th, 2025. I am your host here, Nordic97, joined with Kata and just Carter yet again. Carter, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a horrible last couple days of being a sports fan in Carter's world and Carter's life. So we're going to get into that later, but I am a very sad man right now.
Yeah, it was a rough last couple of days for Carter, and we're going to get into that. But first, we need to talk about all of the trades that have been on and around the league. We also have a very special interview coming up later in this episode involving the captain of the ECHL Reading Royals, Todd Skirving. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. But first, at the end of last episode, I said that we would not be talking about the Vancouver Canucks until A, a trade, B, somebody got fired, or C, something else really of importance happened. I said no more to the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson's things. I said no more to it. And I think I probably would have talked about them anyways in this because Jim Rutherford came out and made some comments since our last episode. But JT Miller was also traded since our last episode. So JT Miller was traded to the New York Rangers along with Erik Brannstrom and Jackson Dorrington from the Vancouver Canucks. In exchange, the Canucks got forward Philip Hedl, defenseman Victor Mancini, a 2025 conditional first-round pick, which is top 13 protected. It slides to 2026, and that first-round pick is no longer in Vancouver. We'll get into that trade a little bit later on. But Carter, Miller's off to the Rangers. What are your initial thoughts on this deal? Or what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, he's back. I think that it's a great trade for the Rangers. I think they definitely needed something to shake up here. And JT Miller, he's a guy who played in New York and had some pretty decent success there, I will say. So kind of knew what you were going to expect out of him. And I mean, you look at it, they still got some cap to work with here. So I mean, things are looking good in New York right now. They desperately needed, as I said, something to shake it up, and they lose out on Hedl, which does kind of suck. But anytime you can add an elite player like JT Miller, someone who plays with so much grit, he's exactly what they're going to need come playoff time. And I feel like he's something that they were missing every single time they'd get into the playoffs. Is they didn't have a top line guy who played with a little bit of grit, who wouldn't be shy of throwing the body around. So I think JT Miller is going to fit in absolutely perfect for the rest of this regular season, and as well as if they make playoffs, which they should, I think he's definitely going to help them out.
Yeah, so again, I'll look at the Rangers side first before we get into the Canucks end, like Carter did. I think right now, yes, the Rangers win this trade. They get the better roster player in Miller. Again, he's a guy that oh my God, we got breaking news here on the podcast. We'll get into that in a second, but it's gonna help with the other trade that happened. So Miller you get Miller, very good roster player from Vancouver, who's a grit player, is very solid offensively, is a previous 100-point scorer. You get a depth defenseman in Erik Brannstrom and a defenseman in Jackson Dorrington. I don't know a lot about Dorrington. I think he's likely just a defensive prospect. And as for Brannstrom, he is more or less just a AHL type player. And I think that that's really more or less where he stands at. In the long term, I don't necessarily know if this is a win for the Rangers, in my opinion, because I got to be honest with you. We don't know where the Rangers are going to be next year. And the Rangers, in a sense, are getting a player who is 31 years old, has 6 more years left on his contract, and I just don't know if long-term it is the best solution. But again, for the Rangers, I mean, when you're really only looking at right now, I guess that makes sense. But when I look at it in the long term, I don't really like it for them. But I guess when you're at it right now, like, you better make the playoffs. If this is the case, you better make the playoffs. Otherwise, this is a pretty bad look for this Rangers roster. But I heard on Chicklets today that Chris Drury has been wanting Miller for a very long time. Like, he has been somebody that has been trying to get Miller for forever, even before like Miller signed that big extension. Drury was trying to go out and get him from the Rangers, and he finally gets his guy here, and I really like it. On Vancouver's end, though, it's okay. Philip Hedl, I said in previous episodes, like, I'm not the biggest fan of like the Canucks getting just Hedl. Like, it's not on him as a player. I like Hedl, but I just feel like the injuries over the last couple of years have not been great for his career. This year, however, has been a lot better. Even in his little stint with Vancouver, he's actually a point per game player. So you love to see that. So I think he has the potential to be a really good center. But again, you're getting a 25-year-old injury-prone guy as opposed to a 31-year-old high point scoring player. Again, I think it's one of those deals where it's like, you got to know how it plays out before you say who really wins the trade. But I do like it on that end, a guy getting a guy like Hedl. And then Mancini, solid defensive prospect, 5th-round pick, looked good with the Rangers on a very stacked blue line. And then the 1st-round pick, they moved for somebody who we'll get into in a second here. But Carter, how did you feel about Vancouver's return?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty solid. I think anytime you can add a young player to this, I'd say decently young core of Pettersson, Besser, and Quinn Hughes as well. Anytime you can add a guy around that kind of same age, I think it's very good. I think they needed a 2C because obviously Pettersson and JT Miller were not really clicking together. They could have tried a 1-1 with the two of them, but obviously you don't really want to spread out those two because those two would have complemented each other without the off-ice issues so much between the two of them. So, I mean, getting Hedl's is pretty solid, and then that 1st-round pick as well is something that they turned into very well. I think that turning what they sent away JT Miller for and then what they got back, as well as another piece or two, I think it's definitely worthwhile for the Vancouver Canucks here.
Now, one thing that I want to talk about before we move into the other Pettersson trade is Elias Pettersson, the forward. Pettersson, I think with the departure of JT Miller, no more excuses. You need to get your game together. You need to start playing like the Pettersson that we know you can be. Ever since he signed that contract, he has been very slow, especially in the playoffs. Only had 6 points in 13 games played. Again, he was dealing with an injury, but still at the same time, I think that he really needs to find his game here over the next, I would say, month or so with the Canucks for this to look like a good trade for them. Because again, Pettersson kept saying, he didn't really say it, but we kind of knew, like, oh, Miller's the problem. Miller's the issue here. Well, now that JT Miller has departed, now you need to really start playing. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think all eyes are going to be on Elias Pettersson because so much of the rumors were, who is it that we're going to deal here? Is it going to be Elias Pettersson? Is it going to be JT Miller? JT Miller's already shown out with the New York Rangers. He scored 2 goals, I think, in his first game with them. So he's already proven that I can score just as good as anyone else, and I'm going to make you pay for trading me, right? So Pettersson's got to play with that. Well, fuck, like, they kept me. They believe in me. I got to go out and prove that I'm the guy that they signed to an $11.6 million deal last year. Like, I got to go out and prove myself every night because they kept me over JT Miller. So a lot of pressure is going to be on Elias Pettersson, especially in a big Canadian market like Vancouver. So he's got to show out, and I think he will.
Yeah, I think so too. I actually really do hope so. In a sense that, I really like Pettersson. I still think he can be a really good player. Again, he's only 26 years old, so he can still really reach his potential. But yeah, a lot of eyes are lying on Pettersson now, like you said. And now there's more. There's another Pettersson that has joined the roster literally the same day. The Vancouver Canucks acquired defenseman Marcus Pettersson and forward Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for forward Danton Heinen, defenseman Vincent Desharnais, forward Melvin Fernstrom, and a conditional 2025 first, which is the Rangers pick that they just got. Again, top 13 protected. I got to be honest, like, looking at the Penguins, they might be the team that wins this deal overall, if we're being honest. They get a first-round pick. That might be a lottery pick. Like, it might be a 14 to 25 pick. And I think you got to be happy with that if you're Pittsburgh. Again, you get guys like Heinen, former Penguin, Desharnais, solid third pairing defenseman, and then Fernstrom I don't know a ton about. But I like Pittsburgh's return. Carter, how do you feel about the Penguins and what they got?
Well, I'll start off by addressing Vancouver. I think that, what they did was kind of perfect, honestly. They need some help on that back end very fucking bad. Like, it's bad.
Yep.
And Quinn Hughes has been carrying them every single night. And he's out right now, so we're really going to see this Vancouver Canucks team without Quinn Hughes in the lineup. But I think Pettersson, the Marcus Pettersson, is going to play a pity. Oh my goodness, I can't. It's stuck in my mouth. It is hard. He's going to play a pretty big role on that back end, and I think he's really going to help out there. Drew O'Connor, I think it's a solid return. Again, he's 26 years old, so he's about the same age as their young core of Pettersson, Hedel, Besser, all that kind of stuff. So it helps them with that young team, but at the same time, I mean, he's not a player that you see and then it's jaw dropping and everything is just madness right now.
Yeah, well, Marcus Pettersson is a defensive defenseman. I think that is abundantly clear. He's not going to be a guy who scores a ton of points for you. You just look at his hockey DB; it sits right there. He's not a guy who's going to score a lot of points for you. He's going to play defense. And for Vancouver, that's something that they need on that roster. So I really like it from that perspective. Again, I do want to say that literally right as we were recording, like literally 10 minutes ago, Pettersson signed a 6-year, $5.5 million extension with the Canucks. Carter, that was news I was referring to. And I don't hate it from Vancouver's perspective. I think, again, you know what you're getting out of Pettersson. He's a defensive defenseman type player, and Vancouver needs those kind of guys on their blue line. I like a guy like Drew O'Connor. I think he is somebody who, can be a solid fourth line player. And again, you're losing a guy like Miller. It's good to add a little bit more offensive help. And he's a little bit younger. He's 26 years old. So maybe he has the potential to be more than what we've seen of him in Pittsburgh. Again, even 2 years ago, he had 33 points in 79 games played. So I think he can be a good 40-point scorer at best. But I do like it from the Canucks perspective. Carter, did you go on Pittsburgh? I wanted to start with that.
No. I'll quickly touch base on Pittsburgh. I mean, yeah, I do like this for them. They get Desharnais, right shot defenseman, who's not really the defensive defenseman that Marcus Pettersson is. So obviously it does kind of suck to lose that. But I mean, again, when you look at this Pittsburgh Penguins team, they have some decent prospects. Owen Pickering is there. Rutger McGroarty's there. But really, other than that, there's not a whole heck of a lot of big, massive names by any means on there. So getting that first round pick of the Rangers, which does kind of suck because it could be a lottery pick, could not. You don't exactly know what you're going to get with the Rangers, especially after JT Miller. And then they also have their own pick, and Pittsburgh's kind of been bouncing all kind of around. It looked like at the start they were really, really hot, and then they got really cold, and just it's been a mix right now. They're 8th in the Eastern Conference right now. So I mean, a lot of stuff you got to take a look at is with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but as it looks right now, they are almost at about the same points area as the New York Rangers. So I mean, it does look good as far as having two high draft picks go, especially in the first round, because I think if everything shapes up the way it is now, they will have the 7th and the 12th pick in the draft. So you'll have two top 12 picks to to go. And not only that, they still have some guys that if they truly did want to, they could ship out and give them chances and go win a Stanley Cup. So, yeah, I think it's good for Pittsburgh, honestly.
Well, first off, the pick is top 13 protected. So right
Is
now
it? Okay.
they wouldn't get that pick. That would slide over to
Right.
2026. But I think the Penguins, like going back to what you said, like I think they're finally deciding that they want to just kind of sell. They maybe not do like a fire sale like we said in a few episodes ago, but I think maybe now they want to sell and try and move on from some other players. I got to be honest though, this is probably the best return you're going to get for any of the guys you have right now, unless if you trade Malkin or obviously Crosby. But I'm tired of hearing Biz go on and on about it. But I think that right now this is probably the best amount you're going to get. I just don't know what else you could get for other players on this team, like in terms of first round picks. Like if you could trade like a guy like Kevin Hayes or Michael Bunting maybe for like a second round pick. But apart from that, like I don't really know any other players who would have like an insane amount of value for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But when you look at their draft picks, they are kind of stocking up a little bit there on later round picks. So maybe they can make something happen and maybe they can like slide into the first round at the draft, because sometimes you see trades where it's like, oh, 2 seconds for a first. Maybe that's later. Maybe the Penguins try and go from that approach. But I think that they're finally choosing to start to sell, and I think that's a good thing there for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But yeah, overall, that is it for that. With Pittsburgh, with Vancouver, with the Rangers. Carter, shall we get into the Philly trade?
No. I'd rather not.
All right, this is going to be a hard one for the two of us, because you guys know that we are both Philadelphia Flyers fans. But the Calgary Flames have acquired forward Joel Farabee, forward Morgan Frost from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for forward Andrei Kuzmenko, forward Jacob Peltier, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 2028 seventh-round pick. So, Carter, I'll start off with you. What are your thoughts on this trade?
If I am going to give a non-bias look at it, I think it's a great trade for both teams, honestly. I think for Calgary, their GM kind of came out and said this is a reward for, how good they've been playing all year. And I mean, hey, look at them. They've been playing some really good hockey right now. They got 59 points. They're battling with the Canucks right now for that last wild card spot. But not only that, they're only 1 point out of third in that Pacific division. So they've been playing really well. No one really expected them to be here, especially after what happened to them last season. Yeah. So obviously Calgary's looking to take advantage of some underperforming young guys and give them a chance to make some plays. And Farabee right now, he's the first line right winger for the Calgary Flames. Morgan Frost, he's playing third line right now. He'll probably end up getting bumped up to that second line or maybe moving to the right, left side, whatever it is.
Unheard of Philly, by the way.
Unheard of. Especially Farabee first line. Are we kidding? Like that never happens.
Like what? What
so, anyways, I think it's a great trade for Calgary, and I think that the return for Philly is good as well. They kind of had a cap dump, I think, in who was kind of the Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko was kind of looking at it as a cap dump. It's an extra $500,000 for Kuzmenko, and you get Farabee for longer and all that kind of stuff. Kuzmenko, he's 29 years old. He's an older guy. I think they kind of just made sure to bring him in. For Mishkov, just give him another Russian. Peltier, I am excited for. I think he's going to be very good. I've kind of caught a few Calgary games, and he's looked very solid for them. And then on top of that, the Flyers also did end up bringing in a second-round pick. Was it Calgary? It was Calgary's second-round pick. So, I mean, I think if Calgary starts sliding, this is going to be very good. But even if they don't, it's still a great trade. The Flyers are absolutely stockpiling draft picks right now. We have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds, 3 of them being first-round picks. So, looking really good for the Philadelphia Flyers as far as draft picks go. So hopefully, hopefully Colorado and Edmonton can kind of start sucking, but not enough to get them out of the protection area. Because that would be very nice.
I think we're praying on first round exits for each of them.
I would love that. That would be absolutely money right now. First round exits for both of them. Give us some picks inside the top 22. 3 picks inside the top 22, with one of them being a top 6, top 5 pick, would be absolutely unbelievable for the Philadelphia Flyers. So that's what I am banking on. But then again, I will say it doesn't look like the Flyers will be making very many. I doubt, or I don't want to say I doubt they'll make any more moves, because I think there's still so many moves that they can make. Like they have they got some guys that are on some expiring deals. Scott Lawton was huge in rumors last year. I think we already touched base on them early in the I think last episode or something like that. Lawton was a guy floating around. Ristolainen has been floating around for fucking years. So I don't know what that's all about. So I mean, there's so many guys that the Flyers can move, so I think that they're still in a good spot as far as for maybe getting some more draft picks go. And you know, they got almost $2 million in salary cap space, so I think that they're also a team that could take on some salary for the year, just to kind of make things go for them a little, get some more picks.
Well, let me speak my 2 cents here, because I want Carter go on a little bit of a tangent.
Thank you.
Not hating on you. I'm just saying. So Calgary gets Farabee and Frost. I think those are 2 very high upside. They're relatively younger forwards. I think Farabee's 27. I think Frost is 26. So they're still pretty much in their prime. And for what we've seen with Calgary and how they have played, I think that they already look really effective. And I like both of them in their roles. What's funny is that Kuzmenko and Peltier have not even played for the Flyers yet, just because of the visa issues. There's trouble with them getting across the Canadian border and into the States. And Philly's on that little road trip right now. They do go back home, I think, on Thursday or Saturday. I'm not 100% sure. But again, I think that from that perspective, it's a good trade for both teams, because I think that, again, like, it's 4 guys who need a change of scenery. Farabee and Frost were not having that good of seasons under Tortorella this year. Kuzmenko has not looked good in Calgary. Peltier just struggling to stay in the lineup, has not had a great season overall. And I think this is a trade that solved things for both teams, and Philadelphia just keeps racking up draft picks. They get a 2nd-round pick in 2025. The 7th in 2028, we'll remember that in 3 years, and they'll be like, where were you now? Where were they at moment or whatever? I overall, I think it's really weird that they put a 7th in there for like 3 years from now. But yeah, from a fan perspective, when I'm looking at it from a not biased perspective, that's how I feel. But from a fan perspective, it was pretty sad. It was a little bit shocking at first. I got to be honest, hearing that, they moved on from these 2 players, and I was sad because these two guys have been Flyers my entire life, and or my entire time watching the Flyers play. And it was sad to see, because I really wanted a guy like Joel Farabee to work out. I desperately wanted him to work out, and he looked good in some seasons, but just wasn't good enough to stay with Philadelphia. And it's pretty clear they want to move on in this direction. And Frost, I remember hearing a couple of years ago that he was going to be like the future for the Flyers, the future #1 center. And that faded away very quickly. But I'm happy that Peltier is coming over, because I like Peltier and his time with Calgary. I think he's going to be an exciting young forward. Kuzmenko will play with Michkov, who's had a really rough go of things this season, especially over the last 25 games or so. And then they get some extra picks too, which I can't hate. But there were some people who were saying that this was a fleece for Calgary or a fleece for Philadelphia. I've seen both sides to it. I think that Calgary right now, they win this trade, but as Carter says, Philadelphia gets some cap room here, and I think they win in the long term from that perspective. So yeah, it was just pretty sad on last Thursday night hearing that those 2 guys were traded, because they were 2 of my favorite Flyers, to be honest with you. So is that all we got on that? I thought we'd go into it more, but guess not. That's all we got.
No,
So
there's not a whole heck of a lot to say on that one. That one's
it's just sad,
done.
because I mean, even though like this team never made the playoffs and they weren't that good the last couple of years, you still get connected to the players. And like you see all the posts that they posted on Instagram, that made me even worse. Like Ryan Paling's post, Owen Tippett's post. It's just sad. Like you could tell that and it makes me feel even worse that you could tell the bond between these guys, this core group of players that we have there is unbelievable. Like it is so they love each other. It is a tight-knit group, but it just sucks because they just aren't good enough. And that's hard for me to say because I want them to be good enough. I want this team to make the playoffs. I love this Flyers team. They're just not good enough. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. I want to move into the other trade before we move into the Todd Skirving interview, and I break Carter's heart a little bit more. The Dallas Stars have acquired forward Mikael Granlund and defenseman Cody Ceci from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a 2025 first-round pick and a conditional 2025 fourth-round pick. The fourth will become a third if Dallas makes the Stanley Cup final. So, Carter, what were your thoughts on this trade? The Stars get probably their number 3, number 2 center and a solid third pairing defenseman. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I kind of like this for them. I think Mikael Granlund right now he's on the what?
What? I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you did. My bad. Mikael Granlund, he's on last year of his deal, $5 million. He's playing on that second line right winger there with Duchesne and Marchment. I liked how Granlund played this year. I think he looked really, really good. He definitely played well enough to earn this kind of the price tag that came with him that the Dallas Stars had to pay. So, I mean, definitely one that I think San Jose definitely likes because it ended up getting them pretty solid return, I'd say. So, yeah, I think as far as for Dallas, I think it was the price to pay. Not only that, they get Cody Ceci as well, who is fitting in on that second line right D man, but obviously Miro Heiskanen is currently out with injury right now. So I'll say this: Dallas is looking like a scary team right now, man, because Heiskanen's out on injured reserve right now, and he's been looking really, really good this year. And I'm pretty sure he is eligible for LTIR if needed. So could you imagine the cap room that the Dallas Stars would have with Tyler Seguin making almost $10 million and Miro Heiskanen making about $8.5 million? The cap room that would come from having both of those guys on LTIR is ridiculous. And not to mention that Dallas is already such a good team.
I think they're not done. I think we're gonna see some more come from the Stars, especially if Heiskanen does get placed on LTIR by the Stars, and I'm really excited to see what they can do. But looking at the trade right now, I like it from Dallas's perspective. They get a guy like Granlund who, he's not going to fit in well if he's playing like a third or fourth line role. I think that's very obvious with the way he was in Pittsburgh. He was playing that kind of play. He needs to get more time in your top 6, higher played minutes. And I think he's gotten that with the Sharks. And he's proven that, he can be a legitimate 60-point player, 40-point guy. Like, he had 15 goals, 45 points with the Sharks. You get that on your second line. Again, maybe he's not as good as Tyler Seguin. Maybe he's not a Tyler Seguin replacement. But I still think from that perspective, you're getting a really good second or third line player here in Granlund. And I think the price is worth it to give up. Again, if you listen to the MVP, I wasn't a huge fan of it from the start. But then LeBlanc kind of persuaded me a little bit. And now that I look at it from this other perspective, I think that, again, the Stars did really good here in getting a good second line player. Again, he's not the sexiest of names. I would rather like a Brock Nelson maybe if you're Dallas. But again, getting a guy like Granlund, he's still a really solid high point producer. And then CC, again, I've heard criticisms of his defensive play. Again, I think when you get Miro Heiskanen on this team, It won't be that big of a deal. He'll probably be playing on the third pairing, as Carter said. But again, as I said, I don't think the Stars are done. I think that you get 2 solid roster players here for a first. And I think, again, that first is going to be rather later on in the draft. They plan on that being like a 27 to 32 pick. So I don't really hate it there. Again, I look at the Sharks. You make good value. You get a first round pick. You get a conditional fourth. Again, you want to keep getting more prospects. You're likely going to get another top 5 pick this year. So I can't hate it there from the Stars' perspective. Carter, anything more to add?
Yeah, I think I'll just quickly touch base on the Dallas Stars. On the Sharks. I like this move for them. I mean, it does kind of suck, obviously, giving up Mikhail Granlund, but I mean, he's 30 years old, and this is a much younger team when you look at this team. Not only that, you're going to give Colin Graf some time to play in the some NHL time, so I think that's definitely going to be very key for his development there. Someone that I was very high on coming out of college. So, I mean, yeah, like you look at this potential first line for the San Jose Sharks. Sorry, my throat. And it's looking really good. You got William Eklund, Macklin Celebrini, and then eventually Will Smith will probably slide into that that first line right winger spot. Colin Graf will be right behind him as well. And then not only that, like they got some decent prospects as well. And then not to mention the 2 first round picks that they will have this year as well. The only downside being Dallas's is right now the 28th overall pick. Not amazing, but I mean, they're right now San Jose has the number 1 pick in this year's draft as well. So Matthew Schaefer could be a San Jose Shark.
Yeah, we've been big fans. I want to go into Colin Graf. I agree, Schaefer going to be a lot of fun, especially if he goes to San Jose. We've been big fans of Colin Graf on this podcast for a while, especially Carter. Graf this year, 30 points in 33 games played in the AHL with the Barracuda, nearly a point per game kid as a 22-year-old. And he got called up to the Sharks for a little bit, has 3 points in 11 games played, scored his first NHL goal, I think, either last night or 2 nights ago. And I just love the way that kid plays. I love him in college. He just looks so much fun. He came over and played a little bit for San Jose at the end of last season, had 2 assists, and so far in the AHL on a very good Barracuda team has torn it up. And I just love Graf. I love talking about the Sharks. They just have such a fun future, such a fun team, and I cannot wait to be covering them when they win Stanley Cups years down the road.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got one more thing here before we shoot it over to Todd Skirving. Carter, it has been a crazy last couple of weeks, last couple of hours for sports. Not just in the NHL. The NBA has had some insane trades. We're not going to go over like all of them. I just want to cover the blockbuster deal because you guys know that Carter is a Dallas Mavericks fan and was a big fan of them as they were heading into the finals, wore their jersey a lot on their playoff run. And Carter, I'll let you take it from here. I'm sure you got some words to say.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nordic. First off, going to start off by saying this is the worst thing that Dallas could have possibly done. You do not trade a 25-year-old superstar who has more points in his short career than 94.4% of the entire league. You don't do that. You don't trade a guy who averages 38-8 at all at 25 years old. This guy is in his prime and you trade him for an injury-prone center. Stupid. You got 1 first-round pick for him in return for a 25-year-old absolute pure shooter and finisher. You don't find those in the draft ever. That is rare, and you do not find that. You want to complain that he's 270 pounds? Oh, he's not in shape. He's 6'7", and it doesn't fucking matter because, oh my God, he might be a point guard, but you do not try him in the post against any other point guard shooting guard. That shit doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't. And he uses it to his advantage. He's still fast on the offensive side. Could his defensive side use some work? Yeah, it probably could, but so could half of the NBA players, superstars. Like, not every superstar is good on both ends of the court. That doesn't happen. you find them, they're a magical unicorn, and you didn't get that in return. You got Anthony Davis, who, don't get me wrong, he's great, but he's a center or power forward, and he does not play that side. Like, he's not a Luka Doncic. You traded away your franchise player who's supposed to have a statue outside American Airlines Center. Like, I don't understand this at all. This is the stupidest trade they could have made. It's made me question my fandom to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm pissed off about it. They've already started offering buyouts for season ticket holders. They're offering them $2,000 for the rest of the season for their season tickets because so many people are trying to cancel. It is ridiculous. This GM is absolutely horrible. This guy can't do anything right. The guy trades away our future superstar. Not only that, this is the same guy who botched a pitch to Steph Curry when he was already with Nike. How the fuck do you blow one of your star athletes and you made him go to Under Armour, brought them back from the dead? They weren't really in the dead, but you get my point. Like, Nike would be set up if they had LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and then imagine having Steph Curry. Like, not only that, the Jordan brand owned by Nike has Luka Doncic. Like, what is wrong with you? I don't understand this GM. He's an absolute idiot. It pisses me off. I don't care what it is. That guy was supposed to be the greatest Dallas Maverick of all time, and his storyline was going to be absolutely beautiful until you all fucked it up. And I can't believe that he's the one that initiated the trade.
Now, I don't follow basketball. Make that very clear. Carter knows that.
Do you need this put into terms?
Explain it in hockey terms. No, we'll get into that in a second. But I want to say that I follow it enough to know that Doncic is a very good player. I hear what Carter says. I know that he is a future franchise guy. Again, he's like 25 years old. Like, he's young. Like, in NHL terms, he's like Jack Hughes in a way. Like, I think he's the same age as Hughes. I think Hughes might be a little bit younger than him, but like, you know, you look at it from that perspective. Like, again, just a guy that I think is similar. Like, he's the future. He's upcoming guy in this generation. That's what Doncic is to the NBA. And the Mavs, first off, I don't really know why like you even trade him in the first place, but the return as a whole is garbage. Anthony Davis, again, as Carter said, he's good, but he's also injury prone, as I've heard. He's better defensively, and again, like, yeah, Doncic is a guy that isn't defensive, but as Carter said, so is half the NBA. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of the NBA players, and I was thinking about this when they were talking about the trade, like, a lot of the guys in the NBA, like, aren't that defensive anyways. Like, that's why games are 100-point games. Like, seriously, if all players were really good on both ends of the court, I think the NBA would be a lot less scoring wise. Maybe that's just a hockey fan who doesn't watch the NBA as much as he probably should be saying that comment. Carter's nodding his head, so I'm going to say I'm talking the right stuff. But I don't really understand it at all from that. And again, if you're the Lakers, like, hey, big props to you. You get your franchise player for the next few years. Like, again, before that, we didn't really know the direction where they were going. Don't they still have LeBron on that team too? Like, I mean, that roster, again, like, you didn't really know where it was going from then. And I think that getting a guy like Doncic is your franchise player now. And again, the Mavs, I don't really know what they're doing now. Like, I get, like, their window went from probably, I would say, at least 6 or 7 years under Doncic, at least 6 or 7 years, to like
2.
3, 2, not even. So it's a much shorter window, and honestly, I'm not really picking them to win the championship this year, even though I picked Josh Giddey's team last year. We'll ignore that. But that's what I think. Again, like, I don't watch a lot of basketball, but I watch and I know enough about it to know that is a stupid trade.
Yeah, and like, I'm gonna put this in a hockey terms now. Okay, so this is like trading Quinn Hughes, coming off of his Norris season. Who do I want to, like, not disrespect, but at the same time, I guess it would kind of be disrespect.
I would just think of a guy who's older and is like injury prone.
Oh, that's perfect. This would be like, he's not really injury prone, but this would be like just, oh my God. Honestly, I don't even want to talk. This is like pissing me off just trying to think of fucking players right now. Like,
Well,
oh my,
what I was thinking of is like Austin Matthews for Mark
yeah.
Stone in a first. That was
Yeah.
what I was thinking. But
No, because first round picks in the NBA like aren't even as valuable. This would be like Mark Stone and a second.
oh, really?
For
Well, yeah,
Austin Matthews. This would be like trading Nathan McKinnon for Paul Cotter.
I don't know if it's that bad.
Okay, it's not like that, but at the same time, it's like it hurts like so bad. Like I don't understand it at all. You don't trade franchise guys. That doesn't happen, especially in their prime. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if when the Oilers weren't doing so good, if they would have said, fuck it, we're trading McDavid? What?
It's just like it's with Buffalo. That's like Buffalo's the perfect example of that.
Yeah, the only issue is, the only difference between the two is Buffalo actually sucks, and the Mavericks made it to the finals last year. Who, by the way, which was on the back of Luka fucking Doncic.
Yeah, didn't he carry them to the finals?
Yes,
practically?
he fucking did, and he does it all the time. He carries his fucking team.
Oh, they're about to get bounced in the second round.
Won't even make it.
Yeah, I won't even make it to the first round, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, that was just a very head scratch. It was probably one of the most shocking trades I've seen.
Like
covering sports.
Like I was talking about this with Nordic like before we started recording, and like that was horrible. On Thursday, I had like just gotten out of hockey, driving home. It's a long drive. I check my phone and I'm like, while I'm in the locker room, like between intermissions, I'm like, oh, the Flyers are making a trade. And I'm like, oh, we're getting Kuzmenko. And then next intermission, Morgan Frost is involved in this deal. And then we're leaving. I'm like, Farabee's involved in this deal? I'm like, oh, God. And so that absolutely shattered my heart. And then I get 1 day to recoup. 1 day. And then my basketball team trades their best player. Out of the blue. It makes no sense. I don't know, like, what? Oh, my God. I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to rant, and we have a great interview lined up.
Yes, we do.
So I'm going to call my rant here now, and I'll let you discuss who we interviewed because he was absolutely unbelievable.
Well, do you want to talk about Jimmy Butler real quick?
I mean, hey, he was on his way out. We all knew it was going to happen. The Heat had suspended him like 8 times.
100 times. For doing the stupidest crap, too. Like, it was actually kind of funny to follow it. He's finally been traded as of like an hour ago.
Yeah, like literally right before we started recording.
Yeah, signed to a 2-year, $121 million deal. I just think it's funny because, like, he got suspended for the dumbest shit. Like, he was trying so hard to make Miami trade him. He wanted to leave so bad, and Miami just wouldn't do it. And he kept doing these stupid stuff, and Miami just kept suspending him. Eventually, he got suspended indefinitely without pay a couple of weeks, I think like last week.
Yeah.
And now he's been traded. All right, well, I just want to go into that a little bit there, but we just went on like a full 10-minute rant about basketball for probably the first time ever.
Awesome.
On the podcast. For the first time ever on the pod.
It wasn't about a good thing, and I'm depressed about it.
We have a very special interview that we want to share with you guys. We got the opportunity to interview the captain of the East Coast Hockey League, or the ECHL's, Reading Royals, and Todd Skirving. Now, we sat down with him for about an hour. It was awesome. It was a great interview, learning about his journey through the United States Hockey League, college, through the ECHL with the Solar Bears, the Everblades, the Growlers, and then coming to the Royals. It has just been all in all a terrific interview, and I do have a story that I want to tell first. This is the kind of guy who went into the merchandise store at the Reading Royals Arena, because again, the Royals Arena is relatively close to me. It lives an hour away. My girlfriend has season tickets. We go to almost every single home game. We've gone to almost every single one this season. And when we went, in the merchandise store, there are like these banners that are put up. I don't have one here. They're banners put up that have the players on them. Like, I'm sure you've seen them before. Like, they do them in the NHL. But Skirving went through all of them, went through all the ones that had him on them. He signed every single one. That shows the kind of player, the kind of guy that we brought on this show, and like is a terrific person, is awesome, and is somebody that I've been getting to know the last couple of games with the Royals. We'll meet up after the game. We'll talk a little bit. We'll meet before, during. He's been injured a little bit, so that's why I've been talking to him a couple times. But he is absolutely terrific. I'm not going to waste any more time. Here is our interview with Royals captain Todd Skirving. We are pleased to be joined here with a very special guest, Thunder Bay born, a 3-time NCAA champion, a 2-time Kelly Cup champion, captain of the Newfoundland Growlers, and captain of the Reading Royals. We have Todd Skirving here joining us today on the podcast. Todd, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to hop on and talk a little bit of hockey with you guys.
Hell yeah, we'd love to hear that. So we're going to go a little bit through your career. We're going to talk about the Royals and, Newfoundland and all that good stuff. So the first question that we always ask everyone when we do these episodes is, how did you get into hockey? I'm sure being from Ontario, Thunder Bay, I'm sure it's pretty easy answer, but what's your story?
Didn't you hear we're born with skates up there?
Yes, sir.
No, I was like about 3 years old. My dad, obviously, my parents, mom and dad both got me like a pair of skates, and 2 blocks down from our house, we have a outdoor rink. So pretty easy to get on the ice. You go another 2 blocks, there's another rink. You go 2 blocks the other way, there's another rink. So it was easy to get on the ice. I remember the days of, pushing around a chair with my grandma, my parents down at Tarbert Park. And yeah, 3 years old. I think 4 was in organized hockey, in the Northwood Hockey League. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And now we're here today. So almost 30 years ago now.
Jeez. All right. So coming out of Ontario, obviously you said that there's rinks everywhere. Were you always on the rink, always around a rink when you were kind of as a kid growing up and all that?
Yeah, like I said, just 2 blocks down. A snowstorm comes, we're down there with our shovels, we're plowing it off, and we're skating, we're getting the crew together. So I was always on the outdoor rinks. My parents fortunately put me in organized hockey as well. But even to this day, like if I could go back for Christmas or if I can go back for break, like when you're on the outdoor rinks, you don't really, it's not really, I would say, hockey. You feel like a kid every time you step on the outdoor rinks. So realistically, like when he did get those breaks at Christmas, I took my skates home and I just went out and played, it'd be like 5-on-5, 10-on-10 with kids out there. It kind of just brings you back to being a kid. So I was always on the rink. I still do it to this day. Any chance I can get on the outdoors, I just find like I'm a kid all over again. Obviously playing a game at the professional level still, it's a kid's game, but, definitely take advantage of getting on the ice anytime I can.
I love that. Was there anybody that like you played with that really inspired you, or like somebody that you really were inspired by while you were a young kid playing?
Yeah, when I was a younger kid, my favorite player was Mike Compon, which is one of the reasons why I wear number 17, because he wore number 17. So I followed him kind of growing up. With the Thunder Bay Flyers, they would do hockey school, so he'd take me under his wing a little bit. My dad knew his dad. The hockey world's small, especially in Thunder Bay, and you basically know everyone that plays hockey. If you play hockey, you know everyone else. So he was one of my favorite players growing up watching. Obviously, I was a big Patrick Sharp fan, so he played for the Thunder Bay Flyers, and Chris Schaefer. So those 3 guys are kind of guys that I kind of followed. Have a good relationship with Sharpie. It's pretty cool now being on the Royals, and he was actually down for development skates, I think 2-3 weeks ago, and he kind of came up to me right away and asked how my dad was doing. So my dad used to work the penalty boxes back in Thunder Bay in those days for all the teams that kind of came through, and he worked on the medical staff, did a few of those things. He was a GM for a junior team. So like I said, I was always involved in hockey one way or the other. So having those guys to look up to playing for, major teams, USHL, like higher ranked teams, kind of gave me that inspiration to keep going and something to strive for.
Were you a Toronto Maple Leafs fan growing up, or were you a fan of another team, or did you just not watch?
Actually, Eric Jesberger asked me this on the air the other day when we were talking about the game. I grew up like a goalie fan. I followed a lot of the goalies. I was very interested in their pads and their gear and their helmets. And then one that kind of stuck out with me the most was Dominic Hasek. And when he got traded to the Detroit Red Wings, that's when I became a Detroit Red Wings fan. I kind of started following teams. So I actually have a Detroit Red Wing. The wall in my room at my parents' house, at the back wall, is completely red with a logo on it with, I think, a Datsuk signed pitcher and a Zetterberg one. So I was a big Red Wings fan growing up. Got to watch him win the cup a couple times. But yeah, so yeah. But now, I mean, I can say I do cheer for the Leafs. I've kind of become a bit of a fan, definitely, just because being in that organization for such a long period of time, you've seen players go up. I've seen staff members go up. And I basically say, like, I'm cheering for those people. I know how much they want to win, how much, they meant to me, and you want to see them have success. So kind of became a Red Wing or Leafs fan from that. I mean, I can't say I've watched a Red Wings game lately. I've watched the Leafs game a little bit last night. I kind of watch them every time they're on so I could follow them and all the people that are involved in our organization. So,
well, my girlfriend's going to love that answer because she's a Red Wings fan. So
yeah.
she's going to love that. All right, Carter.
Yeah, so obviously you kind of started from the BCHL and you kind of made your way to the USHL in transition. Kind of how did that all come about and how did that really work for you?
We've always been curious about that. Like, how does the transition from a league to another work? Did you know somebody who got you in there, or did you try out? Like, how does that really work a lot of the time?
Yeah, it actually kind of started when I was 16 a little bit. Or 15 or 16. I went to an open camp for the Sioux City Musketeers of the USHL. Dave Siciliano was the coach. He's from Thunder Bay, a great coach that came from Thunder Bay that coached in that league. Travis Alexic at the time had been playing for Sioux City. So I basically got my foot in that way and just going into just an ID camp, basically knowing that I was just going there for a camp. I mean, to make the team would be pretty hard at that age. I necessarily wasn't a stud by any means, but actually had a good camp. Played, U18 travel hockey for the Thunder Bay Kings till I was U18. And then there's a couple trips out west that we played in the Kelowna International Tournament where I got scouted by a couple different BCHL teams, Vernon, Penticton, ultimately chose Vernon, which was still an unbelievable league. I mean, guys were, committing to schools from that league left and right. So USHL was kind of always on my radar. It was something that I was always striving for. At that point, they had rules on how many imports you can have. So you'd have to be a pretty good player just to be kind of, welcome to a team and signed to a card. So after my first year in the BCHL, I was in Vernon right till the deadline. I got traded to PG. And then in that summer, Marcus Perrier played for the Sioux Falls Stampede, had a good career, was there a couple of years. And he kind of put the word up to his coach. So basically, long story short, I got a call from Kevin Hartzell. It was on our voicemail because we had a house phone then. That's how old I am. And basically was just saying, hey, I heard about you from Marcus Perrier. Just want to give you an invite to camp. Hopefully you can come down and see what you got. And I remember just telling my dad and my parents that day, I just said, you know what, BCHL is great, but this is a great opportunity to hopefully get a scholarship. This is next level. I was I'm going to make this team. I'm going in there not knowing, but I packed as if I was on the team, and it was fortunately able to have a good enough camp and was able to go. So there was no real, I don't think there's a fee they got to get back to the BC League at that point or anything. It was just an open tryout, and I was able to make the team, and then obviously spent 2 years there. So word of mouth definitely helps in hockey, and having buddies that have played elsewhere. And again, it doesn't guarantee you a spot. Like I said, I had no idea if I was going to make that team or not, but I just kind of said, you know what, this is my opportunity. I need to do whatever I can. And fortunately I was able to make the Stampede and have, two arguably of the best years of my life.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah. Going from BCHL, the USHL is in my opinion, it's one step further. And then after that, you can go straight to the NCAA. And that's, for other players, it's a really good chance you get to the NHL from that point. So again, the USHL was a big step for you. Was there anything that you really learned from your 2 years there that you really kind of carry on today as the captain of the Royals? Is there things that you learned then that you still use now?
Maybe not. I mean, not necessarily because it's a decade ago now, but I think just the idea of living on your own, that's, that was my first year living away from my parents. So having a billet family, getting to know a different family, putting the trust in them, trusting your teammates a little bit more, trusting your coaches that you're in a good spot. I wouldn't say learning to be a pro at that age because that's still pretty young, but just learning how to kind of be on your own, time manage, taking classes online and being able to, manage both of those with meals and just kind of doing the right things. Obviously there's some downtime and you can kind of do whatever, but just kind of going through the process and being a kid and being young and learning the ropes from the older guys and, hopefully building, things that will help you later in life, which I could definitely say I did. I've had good coaches there and Kevin Hartzell and Kerry Eads in Sioux Falls and, Christian Bragnell was actually assistant coach my second year there, who was from my hometown. So I actually knew his dad because he was my principal in high school. So that made things easier. And we had Dallas Stewartson, who went up to NCAA. So like I said, we had really good people and like really knowledgeable people. So we were set up pretty well. And then the fans in Sioux Falls were unbelievable. So like, you come to the rink, you get cookies, you get, goodies and whatnot. They're always checking in on you. So you never really got homesick. I just felt like you always had family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. You have any you were in Sioux Falls for kind of 2 years there. Is there anybody that you took a lot from during your time there, and like any good stories from like either the group of guys you had or just the team that you had there?
Yeah, the first year when I got there, like we actually we missed the playoffs, I think, that first year. But the guys are great. We had a younger team, a lot of high school guys. So like I didn't really see them actually because I was done high school. So it was a bit of a younger team. But coming back that second year, like we had Charlie Lindgren, my roommate Ed McGovern was there. Yeah, like we had a really good team, honestly, that second year. Like I'm still a little choked about it 10 years later. That was kind of our year to win. Like we should have won the semis, and I really think we would have won the finals. We lost to the team that ended up they ended up getting swept in the finals. So I'm still choked about that one. But I mean, for good stories, like the second season, I had a different billet. So I would actually sneak out of my billet. I'd sneak out my window, out my back door, and I'm sure they knew because sometimes I'd come home and the door would be locked. But I would sneak out and I go to Charlie Lindgren's house all the time, and we'd be, it'd be me, Matt Van Voris, Ed McGovern, I think, Sam Rothstein. So some of us would sneak out of our houses at night and we'd just sleep there. Like I would sleep there, we'd game, we'd watch South Park, we'd do all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say it's that rebellious, but we did it because we love being together all the time. And, Chucky's in the NHL now. So it's really cool and I'm sure just like any other hockey player, you make all those relationships and it's cool to stay in touch with them. And realistically, like that's kind of brings me happiness now, joy, seeing those guys succeed at the highest level, knowing that, you were part of their journey, they're not big enough to forget about us. I can message Chucky anytime and he'll reply every single time. So those are like the special relationships that you make along the way at any level, really, that you see. And it's nice to see, those guys, not just hockey, but move on to the real world and have success there too.
Okay, 2 questions. First one is very not serious. What kind of games were you playing back then?
I think we honestly just played straight up NHL. Really? My first year when I was in Sioux Falls, it was funny. We actually had like one room was kind of like a game room where they had like Xbox, a bunch of different, like I had a really good, billet family, Brad Anderson and Melissa Anderson. And the room downstairs, they had like a theater room. So someone was able to sleep like in the bedroom downstairs or sleep in the bedroom upstairs. And we just put both our queen beds in one room and literally slept in the same room the entire year. So we can go up and game in the game room, and like he can have a date up in the game room and I can like hang out downstairs in the theater room or vice versa. So we'd be back and forth on that. And every night we'd come back to our room and we just watch Super Troopers before bed every single night. It would be blaring. So we came pretty close, but the NHL was the biggest thing. Like Eddie would kick the crap out of me every time, and we'd get in like fights because I'd be pissed off because he'd do the same move every time and it would work. And I'd be like, it's just a cheat code in EA Sports, and he would do it every time. And we'd go at it all the time, and he would always come out on top. But that's what we play at Chucky's house. We usually have tournaments where we'll 2-on-2 and play against each other. So that was the game that we played a lot.
I've always wondered this with guys who are like in the NHL and like in the pro leagues. Does it feel weird that like you have a player in the video game, like you are in the video game itself? Does that feel like weird, or do you just not think about that? That's something that I always think about.
I mean, it's funny because I used to grow up and everyone used to make their own player, right? You're 99 everything and you're a superstar. But now, like, at first it was like different because people said, hey, look at the card I pulled today. And like, I don't even really play game anymore. So I'm like, I don't even know what a card is. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm on your team? Like, I get it more often than not now. So, I mean, before it gets kind of weird. Now it's just like, I know the ECHL is in there and like we're all in there. So like, I guess it's cool because like it never used to happen. So, yeah, it kind of just is what it is. Like, it's pretty cool, I guess. Like, I don't think too much of it because, the ranking's pretty low and it is what it is. But I guess it is pretty cool because you do get a lot of like kids messaging you saying, hey, like pulled your card, or hey, this and that. So if it gives them a little inspiration, then great. So cool, I guess.
I agree with you. It is a little bit too low. So I want to talk about your transition from. Oh, sorry, I missed the one thing. The transition from the USHL and going to Rochester Institution of Technology. Why did you choose RIT? What influenced you, and kind of how did that happen?
Yeah, so they actually saw me like when I was U18 at that Kelowna International Tournament. And I think they watched me a little bit when I was in the BCHL. And then they followed me when I was in Sioux Falls. And then I had conversations with Hillsy, Wills, Slinky. And then I had like a few options. I wouldn't say I had a lot of options, but I had like a few. But RAT just seemed very, very interested. And, their selling point was every class that comes through there either has like a regular season championship or a playoff championship. So like they win. They win in their conference, they go to the tournament and, at least give themselves a chance. So like, you're gonna go to a rink, you're gonna go to a place that's like supported, a good fan base and whatnot. So Slinks actually talked to me. It was either a Friday or Saturday, and then actually like I had committed early I went for a visit, and then committed, and then that next weekend, I actually sprained my MCL. So I actually really didn't feel the same the rest of that season, but I missed some time, and then I came back, and it just wasn't the same. Wasn't as good, I'd say. So it's kind of a blessing, really, because if I didn't commit, like I don't know what would have happened, but. Just like the conversations, the winning culture, good academic school. But, with academics is just having a chance to win every year. And that's something, historically they've done. So we were able to capture 2 championships, 2 conference championships. There at the time, we were able to win or be the first number 16 seed upset a 1 seed. And then the next year we ended up losing, obviously, in the first Sweet 16. But, it's always cool to just go there and give yourselves a chance. But it was, successful time there. That's for sure.
Awesome. So kind of, I know I'm keep interrupting you, Carter, but kind of take us through that 16v1 upset there. Like, how was the locker room before that game? Like, did you guys go into that with the mentality of we're going to beat this freaking team? We don't care what seed they are. We don't care what seed we are. And kind of how was the reaction after? Because that's insane. Like the first team in that class, like that's unreal.
Yeah, no, it was like, it's happened. I don't think that's never happened before. RAT went to the Frozen Four, I think in 2010. So it's not like, and like we had played like, I think that year that we had gone, we had played some like top 10 ranked teams throughout the season. So the reality is in those 1 game eliminations is like, you just got to win 1 game. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes like Mankato State's was an unbelievable team. But the thing about those games is like maybe you run into a hot goalie, which we had that game. Our goalie was on. He stopped 30, 40. I can't even remember because it's been a while, but like our goalie stood on his head. I think our second goal that went in, maybe it shouldn't have been counted, but it was counted. Like you need some things to go right along the way too. And like a team like Mankato, who is consistent all year, like we're coming in there and we're like, we just got to find a way to win 1 game, So the pressure realistically is probably on them. We're more loose and we're saying, we have nothing to lose. Just go play our hearts out and give ourselves a chance, which we did. Realistically, looking back at it, maybe we shouldn't have won that game. Like they played, we played good. They might have been the better team, rightfully so. And then the second game, I thought like we played really good. And we were 1 game away from going to the Frozen Four and Massa, the goalie on Omaha, Nebraska, like stood on his head and I think we got shut out that game or we lost 4-1. I can't remember, but again, in those 1 game eliminations, I just feel like anything can happen. It could be a ref maybe makes a bad call and they score on a power play. It could be a guy blows a tire, it's in the back of the net, or you can run in a hot goalie. So those tournaments, in my opinion, are so up for grabs. I mean, the best teams don't always win. It's, the hot teams at the right time doing the right things. So, but yeah, we were excited, definitely. We kind of made history. But again, you got to move forward from it because you have another game a day or 2 after that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the job done, but it was a pretty cool experience, that's for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
Carter, now I'll let you
for sure. Okay, so obviously talking about your time at RIT. Before I get to the last one about RIT, before you kind of committed there, did you have other schools kind of talking to you at all, or was it just kind of RIT kind of throughout?
I talked to UMass Lowell a little bit. They were in the mix. I actually talked to Yale. My grades were actually good enough to go there. But the SAT score that you kind of needed, I mean, I did take the SAT or ACT. I can't even remember because I needed it for RIT, but it wasn't high enough for Yale and I would have had to take it again. And not gonna lie, I just didn't think I could do it. Like I didn't think I could get higher or 8 or whatever the score was. I couldn't remember what I needed to get, but I just didn't think I could do it. And I was like, I don't know if it's for me because I just didn't know if I had the discipline, honestly, to like go through that. And it's a really well known academic school, and I just didn't think I had it. And then I was talking to Bemidji. Omar Balira was the vice principal at my high school, so he would actually. His brother was the coach with Bemidji, so like I would actually get called down to the office some days, and I'd just be chilling in the vice principal's office, and he'd be talking to me about Bemidji and selling me on that. And but yeah, ultimately it was RIT. Like Bemidji was probably I'd say 2 out of like the top 2 between those two. But I think just with Bemidji's recruiting class, like there just wasn't a fit really for me. Understandably, like it is what it is, no hard feelings. It just felt like RIT had the best fit for me academically and opportunity to play as a freshman and an opportunity to have a championship each year. So that's why I ended up going there.
Are there any other like really good stories that you have from your time in RIT? Also, what did you major in while you were there? Or not?
I went into biomedical science to start because I thought I'd maybe be like a nurse or a pharmacist or something like that. I don't know why, but I was really good at like biology and chemistry, but I really sucked at physics. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't ever just understand it. And I knew I needed to complete a lot of that just to get through. So the first semester I had like 6 classes in a lab. Like it was 8 to whatever every day. And it was a grind within that first couple weeks. So then I made the shift to maybe doing packaging science because there was like jobs right out of university. We had guys go through the program before. Sorry, I got an alarm here. I think that was my reminder for the 7:30 podcast, but we've moved it up an hour. Got to make sure I got no more. But then I was going to do packaging science because of like the money that was like the jobs that were available at the time. But again, you needed a lot of physics, and every day like guys are kind of going out and having fun, and I'd be sitting in my room looking out the window, just like I'm ripping through this book because I need to, because I won't understand it if I don't study. So it's just every night it's like, you know what, this just isn't for me. So then I just went into business for the rest of that first semester, and then I switched to new media marketing, and then I minored in public relations. So I just felt like it was so natural for me to it was pretty easy, honestly. Because I feel like business is relationships and having conversations and whatnot. And it was just something that was natural for me. So I ended up doing that. I took a lot of other courses along the way, just so I checked off a bunch of other things so I could learn a few things for electives. But ultimately, that's what I ended up doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then last one about RIT. So you won 3 straight AHA championships. What were kind of some of the best lessons or kind of things that you learned going on those 3 runs that you might still use today or that you don't really use, but you kind of during that first little bit after that, you kind of used them a lot?
I think
Besides
just
what winning is.
What's that?
Besides learning what winning is.
Yeah. No, I think it's just going through. I mean, our first year, I can't remember what it was, but we had a tough year. We lost our captain to a season-ending injury, and we just couldn't really rebound because he was such a big player for our team, and he carried a lot of the offense and whatnot. So experiencing that and just having like the hunger to, turn the tides and be one of those classes that, gets a championship. Just coming together. It's, again, getting hot at the right time and, just finding ways. Like I said, it's, the best way to kind of go through it or experience or help or learn from it is just finding ways to win and then being able to help the next class and kind of create that winning culture of what it takes, whether it's coming to practice every day, getting in the weight room and just doing like basically your habits and your details. And, it's the margin of winning probably isn't that big. It's just the guys that want to do it longer and the guys that are willing to sacrifice for the guy beside him. And we had a lot of selfless players at RAT, and a lot of guys that go there to win a championship. So you're going to get a lot of guys that will sacrifice for each other. And fortunately, we're able to do that a couple of years in a row and have a lot of success there.
So I want to get into the ECHL in your first year. You're going from college hockey to pro hockey. How does that really happen? Did you, again, like other times, did you know somebody? Did a team scout you and be like, hey, I want to sign you? How did that really happen as well? Was it completely out of the blue?
Yeah, it was a little bit out of the blue.
Wow.
I had got injured on January 7th of my senior year because I remember the date, because I had planned it. Like I only had one class my senior semester every Wednesday, 6 to 9. I needed it to graduate. So I kind of set it up like where I had a fun, easy spring semester where I could maybe join a pro team at the end. So I got injured my wrist, and I ended up not feeling good again until I think it was July 24th where I started like shooting a puck again. So I was injured pretty good. And then I really didn't know. I honestly didn't know what was going to happen. I was kind of just in limbo a little bit. And then Brian Hills, the assistant coach at RIT, texted me, said, "Hey, Drake Berehowski just called me with Orlando Solar Bears, and he just said, hey, like put in a good word with him, pumped your tires a little bit, might want to check in with him, see what happens." And then, long story short, Drake kind of reached out. I didn't really have many other teams, kicking the tires, so just said, "Hey, I want to bring you in, sign you to, a PTO, or not a PTO, but a contract. We're with the Leafs organization. You'll go to Marley's camp first, and then we'll see you down in Orlando." And I was like, "That sounds pretty good to me. Like, let's go. Like, I'm going to Toronto Marley's camp first, and now I'm going to the Sunshine State." So like, it was a pretty easy sell for me, that's for sure. And then I was in Orlando.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going from nice cold Ontario into sunny Florida, I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a treat, that's for sure.
So you were dealt 3 times during your first season. Was that kind of like an eye-opener to you, or is this kind of common in the ECHL and in the hockey business world?
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. I was probably I was in Orlando for like 2/3 of the year. Got to know the guys. We had a pretty good group, I'd say. Got to know them really well. Loved it, obviously, loved the fans. And then I got the news that I was traded to Utah, so I was pretty devastated. Shed some tears that day for sure, saying goodbye to the guys. When I went to Utah, I kind of looked at their rosters, saw like their best players were on the IR, and I'm thinking like, oh man, these guys are going to come back and I'm going to be gone. And I saw the road trip they were going on, and they were going to Rapid City. So they're going for like a long overnight bone rattler bus trip to, middle of, I think, what is that, South Dakota? South Dakota, I think. Rapid City, South Dakota. I think that's where it is, right? Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. And I just had a bad feeling. It's like, I feel like I'm only here for a quick stint because I'm a plug in a fill-in the lineup to help them for now. And like, I thought I played well. And then, long story short, got the text from the coach, went in there, hey, put some feelers out. Atlanta jumped all over you. And then I was on my way to Atlanta literally 2 weeks later. So it was definitely tough, but I had a sense of relief going back to Atlanta because when I got there, like the coaches met with me and be like, hey, like you could only dress 10 forwards at that time, mind you. So there's only 10 forwards in the lineup.
Really?
Yeah, not 11, not 12, so 10. So he said, hey, like we need a face-off guy and a guy who's going to kill penalties for us. And I said, honestly, like I'm in, like I'll do it. And so sure enough, like I would take a lot of big face-offs. Sometimes I'd go in overtime and just take the opening face-off and get off, things like that. I would kill penalties and I'd still get 5-on-5 shifts. But like that was like, I was like, I have a role, like I have a niche, like this is perfect. And I had known some guys from just playing against them when I was back in the South Division. So it was an easy transition. And that's where I ended up finishing my rookie year off.
Why was that they only had 10 forwards? Was it just because you didn't have enough players? Was it just the rules back then?
That was just the rules. Yeah. I was like, that's how, and then that would have been 17, 18, and then even 18, 19 was 10 as well. And then it was after COVID when they bumped it to 11, I think, and now it's 12.
It's a little interesting. So you go from bouncing around the league basically during your first year in the ECHL to Newfoundland. And I believe you were a free agent in 2018 and decided to go to Newfoundland. How did that happen? And what was your overall first impression of that place?
So the beginning of that season, I had re-signed to go back to Atlanta. We had just got our coach actually left to go to, I think it was RPI, Chuck Weber. But we got a new coach. And I mean, honestly, probably had one of the best camps I've ever had. And I got pulled in the office and he said, hey, like we're releasing you, which is almost worse because everyone has the same problem at the beginning of the year is everyone has enough bodies. Everyone's got too many bodies. Yeah. So I got released and I had said, hey, was there anything I could have done differently in this camp to make your team? And he basically said, no, like you did everything. We're just going to release you. And I said, all right, great. So I was just kind of in limbo. I texted Drake with Orlando. I texted John Snowden, who was the assistant in Orlando when I was there. And I just said basically, hey, like I might go to the SP until Christmas. There's a few teams that have reached out to me already. I might go there till Christmas and just give myself a chance and see what happens. But realistically, in my opinion, like that's probably something that wasn't like long-term because I don't think that was something I could do or wanted to do. So I waited around for like a week and a half, and then John Snowden reached out to me and he kind of started just saying what it was like in Newfoundland because he became the assistant there. And I was like, okay, like where are we going with this? And then he called me and he just said, hey, like, this is our team. Like, I'll talk to Ryan Clough and see if it's something you want to do. Like, but would you be interested in coming here? Like, you'd be a depth piece because we have a lot of contracted guys. Like, only 10 forwards played, and we had 11 contracted guys. And we had another ECHL guy, Marcus Power, who was like ended up being on the first line. So basically, I would have been in the 13th forward. And I basically just said, like, Snowy, like, well, he said, like, hey, is this money good for the contract? And I basically said, like, Snowy, like, send me the effing contract. Like, I'm coming and I'll do anything. He's like, all right, I'll get Trevor to connect with you. Trevor Murphy. He's like, connect with you. And sure enough, like, Trevor, they sent the contract over. I was in Atlanta still, and Gretchen and Steve Cordell took me to the airport, who are fans I got to know there really well, are basically like family now. And they took me to the airport early next morning, and off I was to Newfoundland. And, I landed in Newfoundland, like, never been. I've obviously heard of it being a Canadian, but that's pretty far. I get off a plane in a hoodie and I was like, wow, it's cold here. Like, here we go. Like, this is something new. So that's kind of how I got up to Newfoundland, and, I ended up being there a long time.
Going from Florida to Newfoundland to Utah. This guy's been all over North America. It's actually crazy. All right, Carter.
That is awesome. So in that first season in Newfoundland, you ended up winning a Kelly Cup. What did you kind of learn going on that run as well that, like, kind of really made an impact in your career? Obviously, at RIT, you're no stranger to going on runs and winning championships and anything like that. But kind of that first professional championship, kind of what was going through your head with that?
Well, to be honest, it started like my first morning skate. Like, I got there, whatever day it was. They'd played Friday, Saturday. I can't remember the day. I might have got there like a Monday night late, and they had a game on the Tuesday against Adirondack. And I was skating around a morning skate, and I was like, holy crap, like, this is fast. Like, I feel kind of like, I called my dad after. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it like last year. Like, these guys, like, they had like so many contracted players, older players. Like, they just had a really good mix. And I was like, this team is like good. And then as the season went on, like, the way we were winning games and the players we had, and like the points guys were putting up and the plays guys were making, I was like, holy crap, like, we have a good team here. And then sure enough, you go on a run and they just kept finding a way, and the confidence and the swagger in the group. And then just from experiencing winning a couple of times, when you have a group that has a chance. So like, I felt that, like, I was like, we have a legit chance. And then as you go on, you just kind of feel like, it's going to happen. Like, you just feel like unless something goes sideways here, like, it's happening. And, fortunately that year with everything that kind of went on and in my career, but just having all the pieces that we had there, and, Ryan Clough had to step down because of his post-concussion syndrome that he had from his playing days, and then Snowy to take over and Daryl jumping in, and just, it was so seamless. And we just had guys that were selfless and cared about each other and wanted to win. And, fortunately we were able to win in their inaugural season. So it was special, not just for us, but that was the first ever professional championship Newfoundland's ever had. So it had a lot of meaning and quite the celebration for a week after and parade.
Wow, that's great.
A championship in Newfoundland. I don't know if there's much better there.
I don't know how
it's been a riot.
I don't know how we're alive right now, really. I don't.
Okay, so let's jump forward a little bit to the 2022-23 season. So in November of 22, you started the first installment of the Skirving t-shirts signed to raise money for Movember, which, by the way, like, over the last two, you've slowly turned into a lion. I don't know if you've realized that.
Oh yeah. It's all part of it.
For the people, like, a lot of these people that listen to the show may know who you are, but for some of the people who don't, kind of how did that happen? What gave you the idea to do that? And, the overall story for that?
It started when I was like 19. I'd grow that exact same mustache. I went to a barber, got my head shaved, and I said, hey, like, I had a little bit of facial hair, and I was like, hey, like, let's, like, I looked on Google and I was like, hey, let's make a mustache and, like, do it something like this and do this. And then I just kept doing it every year. And then obviously as you get older, you realize, like, the true meaning behind it and whatnot, and raising awareness. So I did something at RIT. I don't know if that was my senior year or not. I was able to kind of do something there with a local hospital. And then I just kept growing it out in pro ranks, just try to raise awareness because everyone does a mustache and organizations do different things. And then when my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I was just like, oh, like, this is, like, we've always talked about maybe doing a shirt and doing something. But I was like, this is the perfect opportunity now to, like, use, like, our situation to make a difference. So we kind of came up with the idea of getting a shirt. Superfan Paul Loader in Newfoundland designed, like, the original one. And then I had the Newfoundland Embassy and Saltwater Designs kind of, kickstart that original shirt. And then Paul's Loader's buddy, Lee Bennett, like he does those graphic designs that you've kind of seen on the second and third shirt. And we just been able to kind of do it every year and come up with a cool design. Obviously, the line this year is because of the Royals. Last year had meaning in terms of like the fighting like the third monkey, like trying to get on Noah's Ark. Like they only took 2 of everything. So my dad was the monkey being the third guy trying to fight on. So that's how it's kind of like evolved over the years. And yeah, it's been great. Like I said, it creates a lot of awareness. The fans are pretty good at supporting it. Has a little more meaning and just another way to get back to the community.
That's terrific. And how is your dad doing today?
He's good. His numbers are low. It's not fully gone, but I mean, realistically, it's manageable and it's in the kind of monitoring phase. So it's been good. And, he hasn't really skipped a beat. Like when it happened and we heard about it, it was shocking and all that, but he's kind of just kept even keel and kind of allowed me to just go out every day and keep doing what I've been doing with no real worry. So it's been great to have him, my mom's support, and obviously everyone else too.
That's good. Awesome.
That's awesome. So obviously in 2022-23, you played a game up for the Marlies in the AHL. Being from Ontario, I think that anytime you get to wear a Maple Leaf, whether it's Toronto Maple Leafs or Marlies, I think that's obviously got to come with a lot of honor. Can you kind of take us through how that came to happen and what was going through your head as you kind of got to wear that?
And you're coming off like, you're coming off of like your best year in the ECHL. 58 points, like had 30-goal year. Like it was your best year by far in the coast. So sorry, continue.
It was a conversation I had with Ryan Hardy like the summer leading up to that year. And I was just talking about like, hey, like maybe an AHL contract or, something like, I'd ask and just see and kick around. And he just said, hey, have a good season and we'll like see where we're at and whatnot. So Eric Wellwood and Nate McIver are coaches that year. And the year before, and they were honestly unbelievable for me. They really helped me along, and just kind of allowed me to really be myself and, break things down for me and help me along. So obviously the season was going very well, for our team, and a lot of guys were having individual success. And then we just finished in Norfolk and I had just, scored an empty netter that ended up being 30 goals on the year. Shout out to Keenan Southers. I looked him off and I said, it's been like 8 or 9 games with like out a point. I was like, I got to go for this and like get this monkey off my back. Cause everyone kept saying, you're going to get 30, you're going to get 30. And I wasn't trying to think about it, but when everyone's asking you every day, I'm like, I don't know, man, we're running out of games here. So I was able to get that. And then we were flying back to Newfoundland. And I had a missed call from Ryan Hardy. And like jokingly, I said like, oh, he's just congratulating me on 30 goals because him and Lawrence Gilman, and anytime like I kind of reached personal career highs, like they were always good to like shoot me a text and whatnot and congratulate me on certain things. So I just like jokingly said that in my head, went to the bathroom, called him quickly, and he said, hey, like we had good conversations in the summer, like you've been playing really well. I'd like to call you up. So I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. I was like, let's effing go, like let's go. And so I'm thinking like, all right, we just got back from Norfolk. I think it was Sunday night or Monday night. It was Sunday night, I think. So then I had to call my parents and let them know. And the following weekend we were playing Trois Rivières at home. So I was like, hey, like I have good news and bad news. What do you want first? Like the bad news. Like, well, the bad news is I won't be here when you like come here like in a day or two because they were coming throughout the week. I was like, I'm not going to be here. And like, well, what's the good news? Is like I just got called up to the Toronto Marlies. And my dad's like, no way. I said, yeah, like I just landed, like I'm leaving, I'm leaving Tuesday morning. And sure enough, yeah, like I still couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I was like, this is unbelievable. I go to equipment manager Hornby. I was like, hey, like I'm getting called up. He's like, well, obviously I know, like I got to get your gear. I was like, all right. So then I'm like, all right, like my parents are obviously going to buy the game. So I told like Mike Dixon with the Marlies and I just said, hey, like, is there any way I can like, you can help me reroute my parents to like come see the game? Cause I mean, realistically it'd be cool to have them there. And then long story short, he just asked for their passports. And then, I flew to Toronto Tuesday morning to meet the team and they flew my parents down to Toronto to meet the team and I there. And then they flew us all to Hartford with the team, played the game Wednesday night. And then they car serviced me and another guy on our team. I honestly can't remember at the time. So I played the game and then they car serviced us out and then flew me and my parents back to Newfoundland. So I was back in time for the 3-3 against Trois. And then in Skirving fashion, like my gear didn't show up Friday, so I missed Friday's game, and then I played Saturday, Sunday. But it was like I said, they spent a lot of money on my one game. It's something that I'm grateful for. My parents are. My mom never saw me play a pro game before, so she has the upper hand on my dad because she saw my first American League game with him. So she, has bragging rights there. But my dad's seen more pro games in person, so they battle about that all the time. But yeah, it was cool. Like I felt like a kid, honestly. Like they gave me a rookie lap and all that kind of stuff, and got treated just like a rook there. But it was nice to share it with some guys because we had a lot of guys called up at the time, so got to share all that moment with them, my parents, and a lot of fun. Pretty crazy.
Wow,
That's awesome.
Have your parents been to Reading yet?
No, they're planning on coming in March, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I guess we should talk about what happened with the ECHL Growlers team. Obviously, we all know what happened. They ended up folding at the end of the season. Did you, being the players, know that was a possibility or know that was going to happen before?
I heard rumblings, obviously, but I heard rumblings about us and Trois-Rivières, and in my head, I always thought like we're the baby, like we're not going to be the team that folds. From my understanding, like there was meetings. We went into it and said, "Hey, Growlers, do you have a buyer?" No, so we're done. Trois, I guess, got like a call last minute to kind of like save them from folding. Again, that's what I heard. I think that's what it is, but don't quote me on it just because I'm not sure of like all the details. I don't know if I'll ever fully know because I'm sure it's a makeup of a lot of things. But yeah, I really didn't think we were gonna fold. And then the day before it happened and the morning of, it just felt really, really quiet. And I just had this feeling kind of come over me like something's not good. Like it's just too quiet and something's going on right now. And sure enough, we folded.
Wow, that's unfortunate. Do you believe that if there was a possibility for the ECHL to go back there, do you think that it would work? Because you played there for like 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
you have a special connection to that city. Do you think that it would work out again?
I don't know. I like the logistics for like traveling and flying, like it is a lot of money. Maybe if, they got a Quebec major junior team now that I think is, maybe their last chance at a team for Newfoundland, just, flying and how much the travels cost and whatnot. I feel like this team that's there now is probably got a more realistic chance of lasting for a long time. I feel like the only way a pro team would ever go back there is if for whatever reason the Q team doesn't work and you just have someone with a lot of money, or maybe there's a time where the NHL and American League teams start owning their coast teams and then that's where they're funded by. But right now, like obviously we have different owners and it's a lot of money to fork out for, I think Newfoundland, like I'm pretty sure like we pay for teams to come play us basically. Like you got to pay for their travel and after a certain point, like there's a lot of different costs that go into it. So, I mean, I'm just like, it sucks that the coast team's not there anymore. So I don't know if they'd ever go back, but, just really hoping that this Q team works because we did have great support. Like it's a one of a kind place to play. And, a lot of visiting teams were pretty devastated too, because, that's where they have a lot of their fun. They come there early, they stay there later, they do rookie parties there. So I just don't know if an ECHL team will ever work. I mean, at Q team, it makes more sense, less travel, you can go away for a little bit and closer flying. So, but yeah, it was definitely a crappy day for not just us, but probably the entire province, I'd say.
Yeah.
But happy they got a team back. I'm pretty pumped. I'm glad they got a team back because it's just weird to have like a big building like that and not have like a main tenant of like high caliber hockey, I know the senior team and junior B team have done a good job this year, at least keeping that building open and giving fans, that hockey fans in the community, at least something to look forward to. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's always good. So after the Growlers folded, you ended up going to the Everblades. You ended up signing with them. Were there other teams in mind, or was Florida kind of on you from the start and just kind of you wanted to get back to that nice warm weather?
Yeah, no, Tuesday we folded. We became automatically free agents. I think Tuesday night I had gotten like a message from Trois-Rivières, Maine, Fort Wayne, Idaho, and Florida. Well, not Florida right away, but I got in text from like Cam Johnson, who I've gotten to know from playing against over these years, and we got crippled at the All-Star game together. So we shared a lot of bonding time together. And funny story. He always said, "I'm going to make you wear like an Everblades jersey one day." I was like, "I don't know if I'll ever leave the Growlers, man." And so it was kind of like a perfect storm there. Evan Cormier was with Florida too, and he FaceTimed me and said, "Hey, man, like we got a really good group, a good chance to win." So he had called me. A couple other captains throughout the league from those teams had reached out on players. But I went through, all the options, and ultimately, when I got a text from Brad Ralph, I knew it was real, who's the coach with Florida. It's funny because we've been enemies for years. Even my first year in Atlanta, like Florida beat us in round one. We were able to beat them the year we won, and then we lost them back-to-back years. So they were like a big rivalry. But after going through the scenarios, talking to my girlfriend and my family and whatnot, I just, some people are saying just go for the trip. And I just said, like, it's different. Like they're trying to make history. Like I went to Florida, they weren't even in a playoff spot when I was going. So like we still had to make the playoffs. And in my opinion, just, after playing some of the other teams and just seeing, just knowing the league a little bit, like I genuinely thought that like Florida out of the options, like, had the best chance that year. I thought they had the chance to win it. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but it really felt, like from watching around the league, playing some teams and seeing some of the outcomes of different things and just, being able to experience the championship before, I just felt like the recipe was right to finally just make the jump. So Tuesday, I just texted everyone that had reached out, and I just said, I'll get back to you guys all tomorrow, which I did. I thought I went thoroughly through every team and weighed the pros and cons and the opportunities of, what we could do. And I think it was Wednesday night, I went bowling with my girlfriend and her daughter, and I tried to stay off my phone, and I was just like, I need to make a decision here soon. And as we're bowling, I remember just stepping outside. I was like, I'm calling Florida. Like, I'm going to go to Florida. Like, it's just because, Ralphie, I think I posted on my Instagram. I'm sure you guys saw it, but it was a text from Ralphie, and it said, "Hey, Skirv, have you given any thought? Like, let's win a cup together." And I love that message back to him. And then I called him. I said, "Hey, like, I'm coming. Like, let's go do this. Let's go win." And I think I was on a flight the next morning at 5 a.m. and I got into Atlanta because they were playing in Atlanta that day. Went to the hotel, napped, hopped on a bus with them after, and then we played Savannah. So I played that next game. But yeah, it happened real quick. Like I said, I didn't think I'd ever see myself, wearing another jersey before, but I just felt like this was the time. Like this made sense. I needed a distraction. I needed an opportunity, and it was another chance to win a Kelly Cup. So it was the perfect storm, and it worked out really good.
So one more question before we wrap up with Reading. Again, like you said that they had to make the playoffs still, but like you went there, you played 4 games in the regular season, you played through the playoffs. Could you see that like real winning culture they had? Because they won like 2 Kelly Cups before then. Like they were proven winners. Like when you got there, and you probably knew it before, but when you got there, were you like, oh my God, like this team is like completely different. Like they are locked in on winning.
Yeah, like I just knew, like I walked into the rink in Atlanta, Joe Pendenza, Jostling, like I've just played against them. Like I actually don't even know them personally. Came up to me and like basically dabbed me up as if like I was like, I was there all year. Like I knew some of the guys there already, and then like I knew of guys just by playing against them. So like they were all pumped. I was like, honestly, guys, like I'm so pumped like to be here. And they're like, man, we're pumped to have you. And I was like, this is great. Like let's go do it. But just how like they did everything, like, it was just like like when you're in a good spot, and like they do everything right, they treat their players right, like they have the resources, they give the players the resources, but as you go along like through the playoffs and whatnot, like you just that calmness. There's so many times like we were down 3-1, and there's only 2 of us in that locker room that ever been down 3-1, so we shared kind of our situation and like the thoughts that happen being on the wrong side of it, and the thoughts that happen when you're up 3-1, and you just try to help the team in general. And it was always pretty calm though. Like it was like, oh no, we're down a goal or 2. Like we, Cam Johnson's in net. Like he's probably not giving up anymore. So it's like, all right, let's get the next one and get the next one. Or we're up 1 or 2. Like we could play a 1-0 game. And I never thought like, oh boy, like this is kind of worried. Like I'm worried. It's like, all right, we're up 1-0. Like, and I remember there was a quote even in the finals from like Tad O'Had. It said something like, anytime you spot Florida like 2, 3, 4 goals, like you're in one, because now you got to beat like the way they play defense, and then you got to beat Cam Johnson, and it was so true. Like CJ or any goalie that we had there, but CJ had every game, and he gave us a chance to win every night. So we were never it's just that feeling of knowing, and guys playing for each other, and knowing what was at stake, a three-peat, guys that have been there. Like they had so many guys back from the team that won or have won before. It was was all the right players and, right staff.
That's great.
That is awesome. So you're coming off a championship in Florida. When looking for another team, what made you choose Reading?
Why'd you choose where I live?
Well, I'd talked to like Florida again. There's a vet rule, so like now I'm a vet, so you're only allowed like 4 per team. So Florida was I was talking to Florida. I was talking to Maine. I think pretty good. I was talking to Cincy, pretty good as well, because that's where the Leafs affiliation was, and I was talking to Reading. So it was like I'd say the 4 teams that were like maybe more serious at the time. And then Florida had already had their vets. So like I totally understood the situation. Like when I joined it, it was the perfect storm and I get it. And there's no hard feelings, and I wish those guys well. And I still champions walk together forever. So like we're still really, really close. And then Maine, Cincy and Reading. And then as I was talking it down, just, when we folded, I got calls that day from coaches around the league and texts about joining the team. And Binkley was one of them. So he had actually said like, look, we're not trying to get you this year, but like, I want you to know that I'm going to hound you this summer because I'd like you to be part of my team next year. And as I told him before, I don't know if he knows how much weight that carried just because he tried to just inject something really soon and early just for the following season too. And he said, go do your thing. Like, I wish you all the best. I hope you win. And I'll touch base in this summer. And sure enough, like a week or two after the season, like he had reached out and, I had conversations with, the coaches in Maine, with Wally and Painter and Cincy, and then obviously Ralphie in Florida. I had a lot, and then Binks. So I had, I talked to them a lot. Like I was open and honest with all of them. And I said, hey, like, this is who I'm talking to. And I just kept going through the process, pros and cons. And the biggest thing I kept circling back to Reading was just opportunity to play, a big role, opportunity, to share my experiences, and all those different things. But opportunity was the biggest thing because last year I didn't, play as much with Newfoundland. And then, just Binks gave me the opportunity to kind of take the lead in the locker room and in the community and, get this organization going again and making the playoffs. Obviously they weren't happy with last year's result. And I just felt it, as a motivator to, do whatever I can to help this team and this organization because we've had some pretty good battles against them when I was in Newfoundland. The teams here were always strong. So just a chance to be a part of it, a chance to be a part of the culture shift, and just help these young guys and, turn things around. So, we're working on that right now. Obviously, I think we're back in a playoff spot, but, there's still lots of work to be done. But it's been exciting just to kind of really just work hard at it and, like not necessarily get handed it, but just have to go through the process and really grind it out and show these guys and help these guys as much as I can to, push forward and hopefully make the playoffs again.
Now that you've been here for like 4 months, I can't count, but now that you've been here for a little bit, what is your overall like impression of the city, the team and the fans and all that stuff? Like, what is your impression been so far of this team?
It's been good. I've gotten to know the fans, from playing against them. Now they cheer for me instead of boo me, so it's been nice. But no, we take advantage. We have Baja. That Baja Wellness with cryo, red light, sauna pods. So like I go there every day. And Franco goes there pretty much every day with me. We drive around. So we take advantage of that. We go to B2B show, the cafe, and we're so central to so many different places. So we've been to like an Eagles game. We've been to a Flyers game. So we're kind of in a unique spot where we're central to a lot of things. So if you take advantage of like those things when you have downtime, I feel like it's a lot of fun. There's things to be had or things to do and things to see. So I've enjoyed it. There's places in every town, no matter where you're in, that you could find something, even if there's not as much as other places. But I feel like there's a lot of different things, especially in West Reading, that you could do.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff in West Reading. Well, I live an hour away from Reading. I actually met my girlfriend at a Royals game one time, and that's how everything worked out. And I've been trying to, really get my foot in the door with the team. And I really appreciate your time here, talking to me, because I think that, a lot of them will see this, and I really do appreciate it. But I had one more question for you. This year has been, a rough year for the team relatively, dealing with injuries and a lot of other issues. How do you as a captain kind of get the guys going through that and like still motivate them, even with like new players coming in all the time? How do you still motivate this team to kind of play hard and keep winning games? Because, again, like this weekend wasn't that great, but you guys have been rolling as of late, and I think that you and the guys have really helped turn this team around. So how do you kind of do that?
Honestly, just sticking with it. It's I'd say like there's been times where it's still been hard for me to help the guys just because we've been in the thick of it. We've, the month of November was pretty tough, 16 games in 32 days. Like that's probably the hardest of my entire career, not just pro, but my entire career. So I'm just experiencing it. Obviously on the wrong side of a lot of those November games, but as of late, I think Christmas break helps, allowing guys to go home, see their families, wives, girlfriends, kids, whatever it may be, is a good refresher for guys. And you try to explain to players, just how those feelings are, like the feelings you're going to feel from the long start to the season, the feelings you're going to get from being rejuvenated and excited to play, how things amp up, how a season goes. Like now we're, in a playoff race and like how exciting that is and how you get to play meaningful games. And we're still in it even after all that. And then when guys have success, it's like, hey, like when you see yourself on video, like you're seeing the team success, you're seeing your individual success. So to have guys like experience that, see it, live it in real time, do it in practice, and then do it in games, like being able to like full circle moment that now. Guys know what it takes. Guys, aren't really rookies anymore. We're over halfway through the season. We only have under 30 games left now. So just trying to help them, like honestly, just grind through it. Like I'm grinding, they're grinding. And realistically, like you don't win championships in October, November. You win them in June. So you just got to keep preaching that to them and, trusting the process. I know it's so cliche, but with a young team and so many injuries and so many new bodies, like in this league, like you look at Florida when I went with them, like they had a good core of guys, you know what I mean? Like a core group that's kind of say like as of late, our lineup's been consistent. We've had, similar lineups, similar guys in lineup. Guys are getting healthy again. And that makes a difference at this level, especially the pro level. Like it's hard to do it with a lot of young guys, but having these guys get that experience and have to be the next man up and whatnot, like it'll go a long way. And hopefully, it gives us enough push to make the playoffs. I mean, every guy in that room still believes it's definitely a different feel in that locker room than it was before Christmas. And, right after Christmas, it was still kind of lingering just a bit, but over the last month, like, yeah, obviously we laid an egg this past weekend against Adirondack, but guys are obviously upset and pissed, rightfully so, and they should be, but they all know like we've had success and we know it works for us. Like there's no question you could just go into the next game or the next period, the next shift and just, find a way to get it done again. So experiencing the shitty part of the season and then, good stuff, like all the experiences, good or bad, is you have to go through it. And I'm glad we went through November already. And like realistically, like anything that happens now, I feel like we've experienced it, whether it's a long bus trip, whether it's a couple of injuries, whether it's we get spanked, like we've experienced it all, but we've also experienced games where we've dominated, games where we've won, shootouts where we've won. You know what I mean? Like we've experienced it all. So you're hoping that, that's in the memory bank and guys use those experiences moving forward. And then come playoffs, I mean, it's kind of a marathon, but it happens quick. It's a new team and basically every week and a half, 2 weeks. So you're hoping that all these things that we experience now build us, for the playoffs. And that's the ultimate goal. I mean, you want this as the test run to just get you ready and get in and give yourself a chance to win.
Well, it's that adversity that really kind of gets you through everything. And,
yeah,
you've been through a lot already this year. I think that, it really, again, like it's not ideal going through some of the situations you guys did. Like, again, 16 games in 31 days is insane. But again, you learn from that. And again, as you said, like this is a young team that I think has a real chance to win. And it's just a matter of, getting these guys through it, learning this adversity, getting them through the thick of it of the season. So yeah, I really do understand it from that perspective. And we really appreciate your time. Carter, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
I got one last question. This is one that I feel like every single hockey player gets asked, whether really high level or college or whatever it is. How many little kids do you think it would take to get the puck off you?
Oh my God.
I mean, I go to some of the junior Royals practices, so probably when you get hemmed in a little box or a corner area, it'd probably take only like 4 to 5 because, there's sticks flailing everywhere. So at some point they're going to box you in and you're going to get tripped up or they're going to get a stick on you. So I'd say probably 3 to 5, depending on the area. I mean, I haven't been known for, my quick hands by any means, so I ain't no Patty Kane, but I'll try and get through as many, but let's just say, I don't know, 5 maybe. Depends the age, I guess.
Love
Those
that.
Reading boys are feisty. I've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty rough. Well, we appreciate it, Todd. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to say for maybe some of the fans?
No, just thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. It's always fun to like get on these and kind of reminisce about the past, and kind of just thankful and grateful to be where I am today. And it's been great to meet you guys, and wish you guys luck with your podcast. I'm sure we can get another player on here. I think it was Millsy. I said we can get someone else on here, no problem. So we'll look forward to doing that and getting a few players on here for sure.
Is this your first like podcast that you've been on, or have you been on other ones?
No, I've done other ones. Done a couple of video ones, done a couple voice ones. I'm not gonna lie, I've actually done quite a few. I can't remember them all. I've done several, so I was prepared. I had the hair done up, had the Royals. I had to represent, had to look good, fresh.
Yeah, I can tell you're dressed to impress while we look like sloppy teens. But
nah, you guys are ready for the podcast. I thought about it. I was like, maybe I should just throw a tee and a hat on. But I was like, you know what? I don't have a Royals t-shirt here. I was like, I only got a polo. So I was like, I got to do the hair. I can't be wearing a hat with a polo. Look too silly.
Going
thank
golfing.
you so much, Todd.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for Todd Skirving joining us on the podcast. It was a absolutely terrific interview. We cannot wait to have him on again in the future, and maybe even have other players from the Royals and other pro hockey players in general on the show. Again, you may have heard at the end. I actually don't know if we said it on the pod or off camera. We do plan on having another guy on next week. Not a pro player, but he is a broadcaster for the Reading Royals. So we're doing our Reading Royals takeover here basically on the podcast. But we're going to go over some other news around the NHL, wrap up with trending players and power rankings. Otherwise, this would be a long-ass episode. It already is going to be anyways. It might be our longest ever. Let's start off with the Ryan Hartman suspension. Ryan Hartman was suspended for 10 games for a roughing call on Tim Stützle. Basically, they're taking a face-off. Hartman goes and puts his arm on top of Stützle's head, pushes him down to the ground. He face plants face first onto the ice. Hartman was ejected from the game, and as a result has been suspended for 10 games. This is the guy who's a repeat offender. I'm not surprised at the slightest that he got suspended, but I am surprised a little bit that he got 10 games. Carter, what do you think?
I mean, honestly, 10 is, it seems like a lot, but when you take into account all the repeat offender stuff and that it's Ryan Hartman, I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself there. Definitely, sorry, my phone just fell as I'm trying to read this thing. Definitely was very intentful, as I'm sure everyone could see. Like, he full on, like, as soon as Stützle goes down, he's trying to win the battle, so he's getting low. Hartman's just like, oh, it's not like he, like, accidentally, like, his arm slipped or anything like that.
No,
he
did it.
Yeah, he, like, put it right there and dropped. So, completely avoidable and just stupid on Ryan Hartman's part.
Yeah, not a good look. I'm actually surprised, though, that it's 10 games. Like, honestly, if he gets 10, I think Rempe on his 8 games should have gotten, like, 15. Like, I don't really know how a guy like Hartman gets more than Rempe. But again, I guess it's because Hartman is a repeat offender. He's had dirty plays in the past before, and this is another one of those dirty plays. So I totally get it from that perspective. I think NHL player safety finally for once did the right call. I don't really know when the last time was that they actually called a play right. I don't know if Carter can think of one, but I don't know if there's ones that I've agreed with previously, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to follow up on that because he did file an appeal. So he might be able to appeal that suspension. Again, Hartman's not going to play for a month, Carter. Did you realize that? Like, he's not going to play because of the Four Nations break until March 9th.
Yeah, he's got some time off.
He's got a lot of time. Better just plan a vacation because you're going to be out for a while. Like, he's not going to play till Sunday, March 9th against Pittsburgh. So he's going to be out for a long time. But yeah, Ryan Hartman was suspended for 10 games due to a roughing on Stützle. Brandon Saad, we talked a little bit about on the podcast last week that Saad was waived by the Blues, ended up getting his contract terminated by the St. Louis Blues and signed a 1-year, $1.5 million extension with the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't mind it. I think he's a guy that can score, but when he's not scoring, he's not doing a whole lot, in my opinion. Carter, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but I like Saad as a good like third or fourth line guy. He's bringing cup experience. I think he's solid, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I think he's a great depth piece, especially when you get him at 1.5. I think
As opposed to 4.
yeah, opposed to 4. So, I mean, I think Brandon Saad's a great addition there for the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think it kind of sucks for St. Louis because I think that they probably could have gotten something for him at the deadline if it wasn't for him being $4 million. I think if he's 2.5, I think that they end up getting some takers for sure. So it does kind of suck to lose him for nothing for 1.5. So sucks for St. Louis, but I think it's great for Vegas to get him for nothing other than 1.5.
Yeah, I think that they tried to gauge the market a little bit. He's just paid too much. Like that's the simple answer. I think, again, like as you said, if he was at a cheaper cost, like maybe a $3 million or $2 million deal, I think that they could have found some suitors for him. But again, as you said, like it's he's still getting paid too much at 4.5, not even 4. So again, I think at 1.5 is a much, much better alternative, 100%, for the Vegas Golden Knights. I also want to talk about, Carter, the final names and logos for the Utah Hockey Club have been announced. Again, we talked last episode that there were the 3 final names of Mammoth, Wasatch, and Hockey Club. Well, they have removed Wasatch and replaced it with Outlaws, and they have also released the possible logos for these names. So, Carter, we'll put it on screen here, by the way. Carter, I want to ask you, which one do you like the most now with Outlaws being in the equation?
I mean, I will say, like, there's a couple. It's really hard. I like that they're sticking with the jersey look that they have because I think that is such a good look. The black, that blue, and that white just looks so clean. I think that it should either be the Mammoth or they gotta find a name for that hockey club logo because that is such a sick logo. Oh my! Like
you
that
realize
thing
it's a Yeti, right? With the mountain landscape in the back.
Yeah.
Zoom in on it.
Yeah, no, I see it, but they got to find some sort of name for that, because that is too sick of a logo. I think they should talk to whoever had the ice name, because I think that the Utah Ice would be a pretty good look, and if they stuck with that logo.
Oh, this guy, the reincarnation of the Winnipeg Ice.
Bring them back, man. Bring them back.
I don't know if I'd hate that, to be honest with you.
No.
Yeah, I like all of them. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I like Mammoth. I think that, again, like, it's not under ideal circumstances, though. I think you would much rather it be Yeti. I think their logo for Hockey Club shows that. If you had to rank them from 1 to 3, Carter, how would you rank them?
I'd go Hockey Club, Mammoth, Outlaws.
From 1 to 3? What you want the name and logo to be?
Oh.
I was gonna say because you shit on Hockey Club last episode.
Yeah, I do. Okay, if we're including name, it has to be Hockey Club at 3, but that logo is just too sick. Okay, I'm gonna go Mammoth 1, Hockey Club 2, and Outlaws 3.
They have such a great opportunity with the Mammoth mascot. They could do Sid the Sloth as their mascot from Ice Age. Probably. Okay, I'll stop talking. Let's get into the salary cap. So the salary cap is reported to have a massive jump in the next 3 years. In 2025-26, it's supposed to go up by nearly $7 million to up to a $95.5 million ceiling. In 2026-27, it's expected to go up by $100 million or $10 million. To $104 million. And then the following year, it's supposed to go up even more to $113.5 million in 2027-28. Carter, this is good news for everyone. The players, the organizations, the fans, GMs. It's good news for everyone. You love to see the salary cap rising. How do you feel about it?
I think this is very good for the league. because currently it's sitting at 88 million, and the fact that this is going up $25 million over the next couple years really shows that some of the investments that a lot of these teams have put on a lot of these young players, where it's like, oh, this seems like such an overpayment when you're paying them $8 million, and it's like, well, we had them valued $1 million lower. Well, in 3 years, that's not really gonna matter. So I think that this is great for the league. It's unbelievable. So I'm very happy for the NHL. But I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely deserved.
Yeah, I love to see it. It shows that the league really is growing, and I think that it's just so exciting to see what things are going to be. There are some teams who are in such a great scenario because they already locked all their guys up, and there are other teams who are going to need to really pay up. Like I think that Carter, I'm going to be honest with you, Winnipeg might be one of them. I think Ehlers and Connor are going to ask for some pretty big raises. So with the cap going up too, they're probably going to get it.
But at the same time, you look at Scheifele and Hellebuck locked up for their $8 million. That's looking like a fucking steal.
That's true. So Winnipeg's one of those teams that's on both sides of it. Philadelphia, I think they have some guys. They have some guys coming off the books, but as of right now, the only guy they're really going to have to pay a lot of money is probably Matvei Michkov. Everybody else, I don't really see getting huge extensions. Actually, Cam York as well. He'll probably get a good amount of money, but Michkov's the only one right now for the Flyers. When we're looking at our favorite teams, again, you could look at some teams like, I think Florida is really good off. They have a lot of guys who are signed to those long-term deals. Barkov is on like an 8+ year deal. Same with Kachuk, same with Reinhardt, same with Anton Lundell. The only guy they're really going to have to pay is Sam Bennett and maybe a guy like Aaron Ekblad. But apart from that, everybody's in good moves there. I'm trying to think of a team. Like, I think Dallas was another one that I looked at.
I think a team that could run into some trouble. I mean, we did kind of just talk about them, but it could be San Jose. I mean, you look at how many young guys that they have that are, by the time that their contracts are up, I mean, they got 3 years before they got assigned, and that cap will be 113 mil. So they're going to ask for an absolute bag when that time comes around.
So I want to point something out. There's this really cool thing on cap wages, and you guys will know that I have been using cap wages for a while. Let's go through San Jose here a little bit. So this shows off all of their guys that they need to sign. Again, you got guys on deals that like aren't going to be there for a while. Like Couture is probably going to be out in a couple of years, but you're going to need to sign guys like Celebrini, Will Smith, Kovalenko, Eklund. Again, a guy like Colin Graff, who's not here, he's probably down here, on an ELC. And again, other guys that they acquire as well. But this is their current cap situation as of right now. Again, you got a lot of guys signed to 1-year deals, a lot of guys in entry-level contracts. But what's cool about cap wages is you can look at how much cap space they will have down the road to sign players. And I think this is a really useful website for some of the people who may not use this. Again, for the audio listeners, it may not be as good to hear about it, but if you go to cap wages and scroll down to a team, there's this chart that you can look at which shows the percentage of all the players are taking up over the cap and then the extra cap space. So right now the Sharks have $12.1 million in space. Next year they will have $42 million in cap space. In 2026-27, they will have $77 million in cap space. And then in 2027-28, they will have $106 million in cap space. But again, a lot of those guys will be signed by then, all that stuff. But I think it's a cool thing to look at there when you're trying to look at the cap. But again, they're probably going to have to pay a lot of their guys significant amounts of money. But for the Sharks, I think they have the cap space where they really could sign Celebrini to a $10 million contract. I think they would be okay.
No, for sure.
But I agree with you. They are one of those teams that is really going to have to pay up when you get to that point. All right. Last piece of news here, I believe. I think it's the final one that we have to look at. I know that there might be a couple other things that we might have missed, but again, it has been an insane week for news. Today, The Athletic posted the anonymous NHL player poll. And Carter, I just want to say, did you look at it? Because I don't want you to look at it yet. Oh, okay. All right. Well, we're going to play a little bit of a game here. Don't pull it up. I'm going to ask you the question. You are going to guess some of the teams that might be on the list. and then I'll reveal the list for you. So the first question, actually, I'll go in not order. I'll not go in order. Who has the worst facilities for visitors, in your opinion? Who do you think?
Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina's number one, 66%. That's kind of crazy. Is Carolina really that bad?
I don't know. I've never been in their facilities, so I can't really say.
Who else? Okay. Well, Carolina is number one at 66%. Number two is the Calgary Flames at 20%. Number three is the Washington Capitals at 2%. What coach would you least like to play for?
Tortorella.
Yeah, Tortorella's number one. Who's number two?
Isn't Rod Brindamore on there?
No.
Okay, because I remember I saw this one quote of someone talking about Rod Brindamore, and they were like, he's way too jacked. I think he'd just intimidate me.
He's more jacked than I am.
Yeah, I found that just absolutely I just found that absolutely hilarious. I'm pretty sure the Ducks coach was there, right?
Yes, Craig Cronin is number 3, 8%. Number 2 is a surprising one. You got to think outside the box a little bit.
Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah, it's Bruce Cassidy. You definitely looked at it, didn't you?
Nope.
What coach would you most like to play for?
Well, John Cooper, I think, was one because he's successful. Maurice, I think, because he just won a cup, and I think that documentary really helped as well because I think you really got to see him. And I mean, I've seen him as a Jets fan, so I know him, but I'm pretty sure Maurice was on there too, right?
Yeah, Maurice was number 2. Number 3 was actually somebody who we said.
Yeah, Rod Brindamore.
Yeah. Believe it or not, John Tortorella is also like 6th on that list. How is he number 1 in least liked coach to play for, but also number 6 in most liked coach to play for? He's like a completely polarizing coach from both ends.
Yeah, he's really bipolar with the players.
What is the first team on your no trade list? And this should be very obvious.
Well, it's definitely not Winnipeg, right?
No, definitely not. Sure.
Yeah, everyone wants to be here. Like, it's not like it's cold outside or anything, and there's nothing to fucking do.
Airport.
Yeah, like we have an airport.
No, the Jets are number 1, 48%. What about number 2? What about number 2? I'll give you a hint. They have palm trees and low taxes.
Yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Buffalo. Who wouldn't want to play for Buffalo?
Exactly.
Number 2, 20%. And then number 3, I think it's just because of how bad they are at this point.
Yeah, San Jose.
That's the Sharks. But I don't think that's necessarily. There were some other questions asking, do they like the idea of an in-season tournament? 55% said no, but 45% said yes. I'm actually surprised it was that close. Like I've heard a lot of people say no, they should not do an in-season tournament. I've heard a lot of people say yes, they should do an in-season tournament. It was pretty split, but I feel like most of the players would be like, no.
Yeah.
They were also asked, do they think the season is too long? And a lot of them said no. 58% said no, but 42% said yes. To the 42% who said yes, go play football. Go play football. Like if you think the schedule is too long, go play football. It really isn't that long. I think you should be thankful that it's an 82-game season because you have as much chance as if you start off slow to come back. So, and then the other thing was asked, do you think Gary Bettman should retire? Which I thought this was funny. 55% of the players said yes, Gary Bettman should retire, but 45% of the players said no, Gary Bettman should not retire. And I just thought that was funny because half of the league does not like Gary Bettman and half of the league does. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, that was something that I thought we'd bring up. That was fun. But let's move into trending players now. Carter, do you have any trending players to get the ball rolling here a little bit?
Off the top of my head, no. I'll let you say your trending players first.
He doesn't. Well, I don't really have any either, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can give you some if you'd like. If that's something that kind of makes you happy or anything like that, I can definitely help.
I totally didn't ask you. Literally, like two seconds ago, Carter. Can you give me a trending player?
All right, well, I'll give you a trending player. Jake Sanderson. He has had a very good last 5 games. He's got 9 points through those last 5. He's really been a big bright spot on Ottawa. Nordic is spinning.
Yeah, sorry.
Tage Thompson as well. He's got 8 points through his last 3 games played. He has been on absolute fire over those last 3 games. Mark Scheifele and Tim Stützle are 2 other guys I'd like to give shout outs to. Scheifele with 4 goals in his last 5 with 3 assists, and Stützle with 1 goal and 7 assists through his last 5. Kind of not the Stützle we expect to see, but I mean, hey, and then same thing with Mark Scheifele. I'll also give a shout out to Kyle Connor, my 2 Winnipeg boys. Both of them hit 30 goals last week against Boston. So kind of big ups to them there, and I'm very happy with my guys.
I do have one. Marc-Andre Fleury is now second all-time in games played by a goaltender. Tied Roberto Luongo for the most games played, or second in most games played, 1,044. Fleury's played over 23, has played over 22 years in the NHL, so he's been there for a while. I'm not surprised the slightest that he has played that many games. What's crazy, though, is that Marty Brodeur has almost 200 more than him, and Brodeur, I don't think played as many years as he did. It's kind of wild. Again, it just shows that Brodeur played like 75 game seasons in New Jersey, and I keep saying like one of the easiest jobs ever is to be a backup to Marty Brodeur. Literally, all you got to do is just sit on the bench for probably like 80% of the season. So I thought that was funny. It's not necessarily a trending player, but it's a trending team. The Philadelphia Eagles, who are heading to the Super Bowl, had double the amount of touchdowns the Flyers had goals since January 25th up until Tuesday night. The Eagles only played 1 game during that span. Just shows how bad the Flyers have been.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. We'll look at it from that perspective. Go Birds. And then I think that's it, honestly, for trending players. Not a lot of ones that were really interesting there for me, honestly. Yeah. Not a big week for trending players, besides the guys that were traded.
Yeah. New teams, new homes.
Yeah. So, that being said, let's move on to the power rankings for this past week. The power rankings are based off of the last week of games played, but they can also be based off of the standings and the overall last 10 games for each team. Again, we did 1 through 10 last week. You guys seem to like that, so we will do 1 through 10 moving forward. But I went first last time, so Carter, it is your turn to go first this time. Who is the best team in the league right now?
The best team in the league based off of the last kind of 10-ish games, I got it off of the last like 9, is going to be, you call me biased, call me whatever you want, it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets. Through the 8 games, they're 7-1 with a goal differential of 15. They have been absolutely rolling. Connor Hellebuck has been looking absolutely unbelievable as of late. Just came off of shutting out the Carolina Hurricanes, who have also been rolling as of late. So I think that Winnipeg is going to be at that number 1 spot.
Yeah, Winnipeg, 7 wins in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. I don't hate that. Again, they're showing why they are up there with Washington for one of the best teams in the league. My other team, though, for number 2 is going to be the Detroit Red Wings. 7 wins in a row, 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've been red hot, and I think that they are deserving of being number 2 at the very least. Again, 7 wins in a row. They just came off of a 4-0 Western Canada road trip. You know what? You have an idea how hard it is to beat Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle all on the road on that stretch? Even if 3 of them, even if 3 of them went to extra time, that is still very impressive for what this Red Wings team has been able to put together. And I think that they are number 2 on my power rankings. Carter, who do you got number 3?
Number 3 in my power rankings is a team that kind of thought was dead in the water, was not really going to perform much better. But they've really turned it around. Give me the New York Islanders at that 3 spot, 7-1 through their last 8. Goal differential of 10. They have been looking pretty good as of late.
So I said in the MVP, I said in my Islanders video that I just posted yesterday that I want to give some credit where it's due. Lou Lamoriello has made some moves over the last week or so to fix the Islanders' blue line, which had a lot of defensive issues, and I think he hasn't gotten enough credit for it. You look in terms of what they've got, and they signed Tony DeAngelo to a league minimum contract, which, again, you can say a lot of things about him on the off-ice scenarios and a lot of things like that, but I think he has been a very solid offensive fit for the Islanders on a team that does not have offensive defensemen. They acquire Scott Perunovich, a Hobey Baker winner, as a defensive defenseman. He's looked lights out, very good lockdown guy there for the Islanders as well. And then they pick up Adam Boquist off of waivers from the Florida Panthers, and he has also looked good. So the Islanders basically got 3 league minimum, essentially, type defensemen for nothing, honestly. Like low-risk, high-reward type defensemen for nothing. They gave up a 6th, and that's the only thing that they had to give up for those 3 guys, and I got to give a lot of credit to Lou Lamoriello with what he's done. And I think he's done a really good job at, putting that team together. Next up then for me, number 4 is the Washington Capitals, 7-1-2 in their last 10. They're still winning games in an impressive fashion. They look incredibly deep. They look incredibly fun, so they're at number 4 for me. And number 5, Carter?
Do you say Ottawa?
No.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you had said Ottawa or not. Ottawa's going to be my number 5.
Okay.
I think that they have really started to show out. They've been behind some very good goaltending, I will say. And then a Jake Sanderson masterclass is definitely worth giving them some bumps.
Yeah, he's been really good the last week or so, I would say. Next up then, number 6. I'm gonna go. Give me the Edmonton Oilers. Why not? Oilers, 3rd in the NHL, 6-3-1 in their last 10. They are playing right now against Chicago.
Yeah, 0-0.
It is 0-0. I have it pulled up on my other screen here, but we'll have to see where that really goes. But I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes from here with the Oilers. Number 7, Carter.
Number 7.
Oh, wow.
What?
Pete Alonso to the Mets.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's back.
He's back. He's so back.
He is. Did you say, I'm so stupid. You didn't say Dallas, right?
No, I did not say Dallas.
Okay, good. Okay, you said Capitals. Okay, I blanked so heavily on that. I got the Dallas Stars at 6. No, 7. What? I don't know what number we're on.
6-4 in their last 10. The Dallas Stars have looked incredible.
And I've now added Mikael Granlund, who I think is going to be very key to their success.
Yeah, I agree. So I like that ad. Next up then, yeah, we said Sens, we said Red Wings. Give me said Islanders too. Who's the team that's been really good? I don't want to put them there just yet. All right, fine, I'll do it. Give me the New York Rangers at number 8. What?
No, I was just booing you.
Oh, yeah. 6-3-1 in their last 10. They just won tonight. I like how they're playing. I like the ad of JT Miller. Again, as I said, I think it's a good right now. And I think that he fits in well there, and he's been winning games for New York. So you got to give, you like that. You like to see that, and they're gaining more points on the playoff race. And then, Carter, your final pick, number 9.
I'm going to go with a little bit of a not controversial, but maybe controversial one. This team has been playing very nice as of late. Had a nice little at-home comeback against the Montreal Canadiens. Give me the Anaheim Ducks at number 9. I think that they have been looking very good as of late. Performed very well when I was watching them. They looked very good. Frank Vetrano looked unbelievable. So yeah, give me the Anaheim Ducks. I think they deserve some love.
2 straight wins, 5-4-1 in their last 10. They are starting to pick up points. They're still a little bit further out from like Vancouver and Calgary, but they're picking up points. They're playing well. They're only 1 game below 500. I don't think you can hate that as a Ducks fan. I think you have to like what you're seeing. And I have, at least over these last few weeks. And then finally at number 10, it's going to be another surprising one. Another team that is towards the bottom of the league.
San Jose.
But give me the Buffalo Sabres.
Huh.
I think I'm going to say San Jose's won 2 games in their last 10. I'm not picking San Jose. Buffalo has won 4 games in a row. They are 6-4 in their last 10. This is probably the start of where Buffalo, that you think they're immediately out of the playoff race, and now they're going to go on an insane run all the way back into the playoffs. This is what Buffalo does. This is what we know they can do. So that is our power rankings for February 6th, the first power rankings of the 2020 or first power rankings of February. Number 1, Winnipeg Jets. Number 2, Detroit Red Wings. Number 3, New York Islanders. Number 4, Washington Capitals. Number 5, Ottawa Senators. Number 6, Edmonton Oilers. Number 7, Dallas Stars. Number 8, New York Rangers. Number 9, Anaheim Ducks. And number 10, the Buffalo Sabres. And that is all we're going to have for this episode of the NordCast. Just checking one more time if I have missed anything that we should get into. I guess we could I don't really want to talk about that. That's it for this one. Carter, any final thoughts?
Go Birds.
Go Birds. I guess we should talk about that. Super Bowl predictions. What do you got? Birds? Go Birds. Go Birds.
I shouldn't have to say. I'm completely dressed and
well, for the audio
repping. For the audio listeners, I am repping. That's all you need to know.
He's ripping ass. I'm going.
Okay. Shut up.
I'm going Eagles as well. I really hope it's not the Chiefs. I pray to God it's not the Chiefs. We will know next episode if Carter is going to have another really bad week of sports or if this is going to be the redemption week. But
I will not be here next week if they lose. Honestly, maybe even if they win, I might not be here.
You might not be alive next week.
I'm either not going to show up because I'm going to be crying in my bed, or 2, I am going to be on a one-way flight to Philly and I am going to celebrate like my life depends on it.
A one-way flight? You're going to stay in Philly?
I'm going to walk back.
But he's going to live with me.
No. Yeah, suck it, Nord.
Okay. That's it for this episode of the NordCast. This might be our longest episode ever. It honestly might be with the interview and the segments that we did. That is it for this one. We are now only 9 episodes away from 100 after next episode. So
then just say 10. Why are you saying this as if it's we're on 91? No, we're 10 away, okay, after the next. We're 9 away after the next one. Stop getting their hopes up. Just say 10. Fuck's sake.
We're 10 episodes away from
Thank you.
100. We are 10 episodes. I'm going to end the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. We really do appreciate it. We are 10 episodes away from 100 now, but that is it for us. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you in the next one. Adios. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to yet again another episode of the NordCast. If you enjoyed, please subscribe down below or follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow us on TikTok, we are at NordCast. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, follow at NordCast_. That'll do it for this episode. I'm Nordic. Thanks for listening from all the crew, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.